Yeah, sure. There's counter evidence to your idea that Russia's just a stooge of some shadow government.
Okay. And in professional wrestling, you have, Hulk Hogan hating Randy Savage, and they both have coherent reasons to hate each other. They obviously don't actually hate each other. And then there's also the layers that are deeper in that, there's the backstage rumors and whispers that go on about like, oh, this person, backstage slapped this other person and now they actually hate each other and now like they're not willing to work with each other or something. There are multiple layers to this. The fact that there are layers, like the story has to be believable. It has to be believable about why Hulk Hogan doesn't like Randy Savage. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a show in the first place.
Yeah, so all that's saying is that it is possible to have like large institutions that do theatre, and so therefore all institutions do theatre, and that doesn't follow. You need to connect those two. You need to show that this is theatre and it's not something actual that's happening, because currently there's a whole lot of people that are apparently speaking out about different things all the goddamn time, saying completely opposing views on facts about reality, and it doesn't seem like there's any coherent structure leading us to any narrative end.
No, yeah. So this is the thing, is that establishing what is the baseline of acceptance of like proof for something, right? And then it's following the logic train of like, this is something that would be the case if there was a grand conspiracy, and that there being opposing sides that publicly oppose each other is not inherently proof that there isn't a coordination.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
That is the only
something that's evidence that actually happening, because that's not evidence in either direction.
Yeah. This is where you go into really any sort of grand conspiracy. I think the most obvious one is really just the Boston Massacre, in that, a couple examples that you see are just like, there is one guy who is like one of the people who was made as like the poster boys for it afterwards. He has his leg blown off, and he is sitting there conscious for 16 minutes with his leg blown off without anybody helping him. And
I've heard all this
conscious,
conscious
the entire
you don't
time.
know anything about medicine, so why
there's no blood.
Yeah,
everybody
talk about this?
Every understanding of traumatic wound care is that like, if you don't get like a tourniquet on that leg in 2 minutes, like you're just dead. Like you're not even just unconscious, you're just dead.
Incorrect. It was so if you have enough trauma to that tissue, you may not have an arterial bleed happen straight away. You can actually cause swelling and compression of the muscles on the artery, such that it is actually fairly closed at that time. There's only a slow, not getting the pulsing blood shooting out. You guys just don't know the facts of like how this works, so you assume that it's working in a way counter to what it could potentially do.
I got a question real quick. Yasukeh, didn't they find pictures of him without a leg before the event?
I don't specifically know that, but it wouldn't be unsurprising.
Someone fill me in.
If I remember correctly, there was like a dump. I think that guy was seen without a leg before the event. However, like it might have been under a different name, right? So then, oh look, they're just different people or something like that. So I don't know if anybody has that.
That reminds me of the story from the Manchester bombing. There's this guy called Richard D. Hall, and he did a whole thing like he's going to court over it. I don't think he's still finished with it. To be honest, it's been a few years of him in court all over about it. And he'd got a sort of, he'd put this thing together that were as thick as a phone book, and as to why he'd come up with this conspiracy theory, quote unquote, that it was just a fake, there was just a put on, and he's even got video of a lady who had a bolt supposedly shoot through her leg. There's an image of her as well. She meets the Queen, and there's a picture specifically of her leg with a sort of golf ball hole size from one side to the other. So this bolt's supposed to have gone straight through her leg. Well, he's got video of her with a blood stain on her jeans and walking and putting a full weight on that leg. And I mean, I'm watching the whole like his little story. But here's the crux. This is great. The courts won't let a jury hear any of this. They won't let him show the evidence. They won't let him show that video. They won't let him show this phone book size. And I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating at that. It's as thick as a phone book, what he's put together of why this is a hoax, right? And they won't let him show any of it in court. What? I mean, well, I don't get it. Oh, yeah, I do get it, because it's a Freemasons lodge. That's why. It's the injustice system. You know, it's not the justice system, it's the injustice, as Eustace Mullins said. And he was absolutely right. Because you got to be part of the club dogs. That's where you don't understand it. You know?
Yeah, all of that just seemed like more tiramisu without ever getting to the trade.
Do you deny that there is secret societies?
I deny that there's controlling secret societies.
Well, you're not
I mean,
very
it's
informed.
like-
You need to do
it's
some
like
more
every-
research, mate.
But it's like everything you just said there, Andy, is just stuff that you just said, and there's not a stitch of evidence to support it. And it's kind of the way things go around here.
Well, you
Yeah,
can
look,
go.
Andy,
look at
Percentage of presidents that were Freemasons.
So
quickly,
here's-
can I introduce a topic, just a thought to you guys. It's called a thought terminating phrase. And the idea is that when you've gone down a rabbit hole of, is this true? Is this true? How do we look into this? What's the evidence for this? What's a good argument for that? At the very end, if you've got nothing left, you come up with some phrase or some term you can use that stops you then having to take the next step. So you don't ever have to say, okay, well, maybe it's not true. And that's what happened just here with Andy when he was talking about all of these things. And I said, okay, well, I deny that that's happening. And he goes, just do your own research or look into it more. And that's a thought terminating phrase. After that, he doesn't have to provide evidence. He just assumes it's true and that I'm uninformed. He doesn't have to give an argument. He doesn't even have to talk to me about this issue anymore. He's now done. He can walk away. He doesn't have to consider that he's wrong at all. It's a thought terminating phrase. You guys really need to watch out for it in language.
Thought terminating
Him not being able to-
cliche.
Him not providing the evidence doesn't prove reality or not, right, man? So, I mean, if him not wanting to prove it to you and do your homework for you, I think that's not anyone's problem but yours.
So I'll just give a quick question. Werner von Braun, the guy who was very instrumental in the creation of NASA and the Moon Project, ex-Nazi, comes over, does all of these projects. He writes a book that has a project going to Mars, where the title of essentially the leader, the head honcho of the person going to the Mars project is Elon. Do you think that that's just a coincidence? Like, is that something that just kind of is just random happenstance?
It's called nominal determinism. So the idea is that Elon may have read that book, and then as he become wealthy, he may have idolized Elon in that book. Even if it's a subconscious idolization, he's not there like talking about it, such that he pursued what that person was already pursuing. It's like someone with the last name Baker may unintentionally become a baker.
But then you have the top 3 carnivore doctors, carnivore diet advocate doctors. Their names are Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Paul Saladino, and Dr. Ken Berry. They're all the opposite. So it's the anti-nominative determinism.
Bro, what are you doing with the mic?
Yeah, so?
Your background noise is so loud.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, so what's wrong with there being anti-nominal determinism? It's still someone has a name, that name unintentionally informs some of their choices in life, and that causes them to go into one field or another.
But this isn't an area of work that fits his name. It's a different
It is.
coincidence
It
than that.
literally
It
is.
doesn't fit.
These people are nutritionists, and their last names have to do with food groups.
Yeah, but they're plants. They're all plants
And can you explain why that
in one
matters?
way and another.
I've got to
Can you
let
explain why that matters?
I've got to let Ken Berry know that he's made it to Discord, and I can't wait to let him know. Yeah, I know him personally.
Yeah, I know you've talked about it before. It's just that it's just a funny coincidence that the top 3 carnivore doctors, the ones that are on literal like mainstream news over and over again, they've all been on Joe Rogan. They all have names that are the exact antithesis of their mission statement.
Well, how about this? Let's say that when they were first starting out, they wanted to reach out and talk about carnivore diets. There's maybe 100 different people who were doing that in their sphere. And if you're going through the list of names of people who are new and starting out with this, and you want a platform on your platform, and you see some dude with last name Baker, you go, oh, last name Baker. Subconsciously, that's got to do with food. Let's get the food guy in to talk about the food stuff with the last name to do with food. All of that is maybe subconscious and just fully explains why these people ended up having media careers based around this thing. No conspiracy.
Why wasn't Richard D. Hall allowed to show any of his evidence? That's what I want to know.
What was the reason given?
I'm just asking. I'm inquiring about that, funnily enough, because I don't understand. If he's reached this conclusion, he's got video evidence. He's got evidence. He's compiled this as thick as a phone book. He can't show any of it. But why?
Allow him to show it. Like, it's not an open platform that you can just go say whatever you want on. You need actual cause, or it has to be relevant to some case or something in order for it to be shown.
Bro, are you
The courts
shoveling
aren't
or
podcast.
something? Are you doing construction or something?
Yeah, can you like
I'm
mute
just
up when
moving
you're not
stuff
talking?
around. Yeah, I'll do that. Sorry.
So loud.
Yeah, I should have noise suppression on, but I don't think I do.
I think he's digging for evidence.
Actually, I'm
Probably found a gold
definitely
mine.
in some cards.
So basically, ChatGPT is just saying that courts won't entertain conspiracy theories. I think that's what you just said, right, Dogs? I think.
Not exactly. They need cause.
He's basically saying that there needs to be a certain standard for their evidence. But how is video evidence of the lady who supposedly got a bolt that went through, shrapnel basically, that went through her leg, and she's putting a full weight on it? And you can see from the video she's not injured in any way. She's just walking normally.
Yeah, so just to be clear, it's not about the standard of evidence, it's about the cause. So if you're taking someone to court for a court case and they want to bring evidence that doesn't have anything to do with it in, then it can be rejected for that. But at the same point, you can't just go to a court and say, hey, I want to present some evidence to this court. You need to actually have cause to have a court case and to go to court. A lot of things are dropped for cause or standing.
Well,
This is also
sued. The guy was being sued, right, by the families and whatnot. So the so-called victims. This
would be an example about how in the Sandy Hook trial, the Alex Jones side, not that he ever would have, because it was a show trial in and of itself, he wasn't allowed to actually present any evidence of any reason to be suspicious of what was going on, which would be directly relevant to the case.
No, it wouldn't have. So the reason is that case was about, I think, defamation, right? So that means that all they had to show was that he had in some way lied about people and knowingly done so. And all they needed for that was things like his texts and things like his own speech saying that he knew it was fake, or just the parents' testimony themselves. That was it, saying that he had said untrue things about them and therefore he was defaming them. So it has nothing to do with whether there is a conspiracy or not.
Yes, so he in that specific framing, if he brought up information about here is why I believed it, here's, the father being all smiling and happy, and then like an actor, like oh, I gotta go start getting into crying mode. All right, camera's on. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
crying now.
Yeah, great. That'd be really, really good. He could say that I thought this was real. I had cause to think it was real. But unfortunately, all the evidence showed that he didn't actually think it was real. He was just repeating something for his audience to sell shit.
Yeah, but he wasn't able to give, like, it wasn't allowed from the start for him to give any information that
Because it
would've-
doesn't matter.
If the entire point is knowingly lying about somebody, then it does matter.
No, all you have to do is show intent that he thought he was wrong about this, and yet he still said those things to make money. And they found that from his text messages, and they found that from the way he ran ads around the Sandy Hook.
The text messages were found after the court case had started. Wasn't that? Are you talking about the ones that his lawyer leaked, which happened in the middle of the case?
Yeah, in the middle of the case.
Yeah. So he wasn't able to present any information from the start. So that information being there later would be irrelevant.
No, that information is the only thing relevant.
Before that information became a thing, if it was about defamation, he would have been in a position to where he should have been able to say, when there was no proof that he didn't believe it or whatever, if he should have been able to present evidence saying, okay, maybe I was wrong, but here's the reasons why I believed it. Here's this piece of evidence, this piece of evidence, this piece of evidence. Ergo, I may have been wrong, but it wasn't defamation because I wasn't knowingly lying.
That's just not how these lawsuits work. You don't present evidence that the thing is true itself. You have to present evidence that you weren't in some way doing it to make money, knowing it was likely untrue. That's all the court needed. They'd already
and that would be
true,
that would
and
be
they were moving on from there to see if there was enough evidence to convict that he was knowingly lying about this. And unfortunately,
and the evidence would be his understanding. It is his understanding of it. So him presenting evidence of this is why I thought it was fake would be relevant evidence.
No, even if he thought it was fake because of some legitimate reasons, that doesn't mean that he had good cause to think that to actually go out and say those things. He didn't have justification to go out and say those things just because there was some doubt around something.
I mean, maybe in a socialist country, but I mean, everybody knows that case is basically a case. It's not just anecdote.
No, you don't.
So it has
It's
nothing to do with his intent.
That's all it is.
No,
so it has nothing to. So it has nothing to do this. It has nothing to do with his intent.
Yeah, of course it has to do with the intent, but the intent isn't the intent of whether he thinks it's true or not. The intent is whether he is justified in believing that the doubts or the things that he thinks might be false about Sandy Hook are enough to warrant what he said about it.
So then he should be able to present evidence that would give him enough reason to say, this is why this would be enough just evidence for me to have reason to say the things that I did.
No, he'd need to present actual evidence that was false, not just questions about why it could be false. Okay, it's like a
none of that was even allowed to be presented. This hypothetical wasn't even allowed to be presented. This is just the basics of the court case.
That's because there was no evidence about any of the things he said. There was just questions he had asking about death certificates. And was this guy crying?
You're a funny guy.
If you show a video, if you went to a judge and you said, I've got a video of someone who doesn't seem to be fitting the psychological patterns, I think, therefore it's justified for me to call everyone in this situation a liar and the whole thing's a false flag, the judge obviously can't allow that evidence because it's all just speculatory evidence that isn't proof positive of anything. So even if that is enough to justify it in his mind,
it's not all the children from Sandy Hook were seen,
and then profiting off.
You can't talk forever, bro. You cannot talk forever. It's not going to happen. I
finished my fucking sentence. It's your turn to talk now.
I'm just letting you know, bro. They're not going to let you just talk forever, though.
10 seconds of you repeating, you talk too long. Well, then stop talking to me. Go away if you don't want to talk to me.
No,
I'm sorry I don't have one-word responses or one phrase responses go do your research.
I'm learning so much right now. So if all the children from Sandy Hook were seeing it, or perhaps all the documentation
I've already looked into it. It's all fake.
Yeah, all the kids are fake. Okay.
And pictures.
Yeah, so
I looked into it, and it's super.
What about all the documentation that all the food packages were sent to a completely different address from 2 years prior to the event? How about that?
Yeah, but that's all bullcrap.
I mean, how much food do you think a school needs, and do you think they would have it shipped to a completely different address?
Yeah, all of that is
They
just
actually
you
had children
assuming
there,
that there's a certain. It's just you assuming that there's a certain amount of food that school would have. It had a different amount, therefore you think it's fake.
So all the food parcels, when they hand out to the children for lunch, they don't have any food there for 2 years prior to the event. So you're saying there's nothing?
I'll tell you
there's no
what.
issue
How
there?
about this? You go and find me evidence right now that there was no food prior to some event, and then there was food after that event, and I'll look at it. How about that? But you're not going to do it, are you? You got this from a
Yeah,
conspiracy.
maybe somebody can grab it
I've
for
seen
me.
the
I'm in
same
the middle
video.
of working.
Is anyone
No, I've seen the
What
same
video?
sources
What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, actually, go ahead. Tell me what video you're talking about.
I've seen the YouTube conspiracy videos. The guy that gave Alex
What?
Jones this idea, he posted
guy?
these videos. I can't remember his name, but he was part of the evidence for the trial. He was one of the people he was messaging.
Getting the software update from the radical liberal.
Again, another thought terminating phrase. So you guys don't actually listen to the thing I'm saying. Why don't you just find the next conspiracy layer?
Yes, this you replied and said the second photo was a completely different building. Never said it was the same building. The photo 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Come up with the word nervous, and then he's laughing, so you use the word nervous and laughing. Doesn't mean that that's what was happening. You've seen the video, that's clearly not what his body language was depicting.
Yeah,
We're another layer of the tiramisu vibe.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
where's
even if
the
it's
pen?
even if it's body language, what about the fact that they opened up a fundraiser / scholarship the day of the shooting?
I don't even know if that's true. Can you show me that's true?
Yeah, if I show you that's true, will you then be a little bit more suspicious about the event?
Of course I will. So show me it's true, please.
Cool.
Thank God. Can we actually post something concrete instead of speculating? That would be cool.
While he's looking for that, the first thing that sort of brought on this conversation, asking specific questions about it, the Epstein Temple building that everybody agrees is the Epstein Temple building. Yes, this you replied and said the second photo was a completely different building. Never said it was the same building. The photo 1, 3, 4, and 5 are all the same building. And you can see that it is unfinished on the backside. And the doors are fake. They are painted to be looking different than where the actual doors are. What is your conception of this? And why is there nobody, especially on like the mainstream media, who has all of the truth about anything? Why haven't they talked about how this building is fake? And that it's painted to look 3D from one angle.
What do you mean look 3D from one angle? You mean to have a face to it? Fascia?
No, the paint. The first photo is the photo that everybody sees of this building. That
You'll have to
mainstream
repost
agrees.
it again because it's been ages.
Yeah. So I replied to it at 5:04. So if you click on the tweet that I replied, or the message that I replied to, you'll get to the message at 59 past the hour. Let me know when you're at it. I can just repost them. I'll just repost them.
I found that crisis actor's name. His name's Robbie Parker.
Why do you assume he's a crisis actor?
That's the guy that was laughing as his, I think it was his daughter that had just been brutally slain. This guy.
Why do you assume he's a crisis actor? Because
he's laughing, and then he gets into character to cry, to pretend to cry. Isn't
the simpler explanation just that he's nervously laughing because he's nervous about his interview?
No.
If anybody,
isn't that an easier explanation?
If anybody was a thespian and they were shown that video without any context, they would think that is somebody who is getting into character. That's just a value-free.
That's a cool
lens of it.
That's a really cool claim, dude. But it's just your opinion. It's just vibes again.
Here, I'm just going to ask you real quick.
Dogs.
I'm going to ask real
Andy,
quick.
If you're upset about the fact that you have nothing, all you have is like your vibes. That is the case. Then I'm sorry.
Andy.
There's no helping you. You're just going to go to the next layer of tiramisu without ever getting to the base of the pan.
Your mic shit as well. Just put it on mute.
Yeah, wait.
See, thought terminating phrase. Andy, watch out for those.
Hold on. Yeah, let Rick say something.
Why do you think that they cut off the laughing part of that clip for the CNN link on YouTube? But if you look other places, you can find it.
People like you latching onto it.
Why?
Because you're abusive.
Why would they specifically cut that part out?
Because you're paranoid conspiracy theorists that ruin people's lives.
So are you afraid that many other people would come to the same conclusion and they would be conspiracy
Not many,
theorists?
but there's a certain percentage of the population, more than I'd hoped
You-
10 years ago.
Do you think that a certain
that are
percentage of the population
conspiracy-minded
would
dickheads
look?
that will harass and gang stalk people who they think are part of some grand conspiracy?
No, wait a minute.
Right.
Did CNN cut that video, or did somebody else cut that video?
They cut it. No. The video's out there. They cut the laughing part out of their website link on YouTube. Their little clip of that event, that part was cut out. Now, let me ask you one more thing. I'm done. I'm passing over to Yasukeh. Do you think that the population at large would come to a similar conclusion
No.
that I did? That
What
it was
has happened
weird. That is weird that he was laughing, cheering along. Then he was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna face the camera now." And then like, "Oh, okay, yeah, my name is Robbie Parker."
I understand your position is so weak. You have to keep reinforcing the same phrases of, "Oh, he's."
No,
looking at
I'm
the
just
camera and
asking. I
laughing."
want to know if you think the public at
Right.
large
Obviously, he's a fake
would
actor. So would people
come to a similar conclusion that I did.
Massive conclusion you have to repeat all the time to justify your belief.
Hey,
But
let this guy
no,
put
yeah,
his
you're
head
just
in the
not.
sand, bro. Just let him put his head in the sand.
There's a thing called
Yeah,
thought leaders,
you're just wasting
which
our
you
time,
guys-
bro. Just
You guys,
you're talking to
guys,
waste our time. Somebody
guys-
mute this guy.
you
He's
guys,
just talking.
to you guys, stop interrupting me, please. To you guys, these
He's
thought
just talking.
leaders, people like
You're not
Alex
making
Jones, they tell
any
you to
relevant
believe one
points, man.
thing,
Just stop
and so
talking.
you'll do
Just
everything you
rambling,
can to
ramble.
justify that thing.
Look, I'm
after the
doing what
fact.
you're doing. Ramble.
Come on, guys.
Okay, wait. We're all dumb and silly and want to preconceive our bias in Hegelian
I just posted a link.
dichotomies and stuff. But so, okay, yeah, we get all that. We get all that. We understand your position on that. So back to these photos that I just posted of the Epstein Island. The first photo is the photo of the Epstein Temple. Everybody agrees this is the Epstein Temple. AP, CNN, everybody has reported on this Epstein Temple. They may have different narratives on what the Epstein situation is about, but everybody agrees that this is the Epstein Island and that this is the Epstein Temple that everybody talks about when they're referring to Epstein Island, right? So this is the first photo that everybody sees.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything that was said then. I just took my earbuds out because I was muted. Do you guys want to try again with me unmuted?
Yo,
Okay.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Shit, I've been talking for... It muted me ages ago. Dude, just check this out. This is so fucking interesting and cool. One of the techniques, if you engage with method acting, in order before you have to perform a crying scene, they recommend that you perform and pretend to laugh prior to putting on a crying performance. It's like a specific technique within, that sort of acting field.
I
Have you
don't
seen
care,
this?
Rick. People nervous laugh all the time, so why does that matter?
Dude, it makes so much more sense
You got
now why
nothing
they
but
laugh.
nervous laughter. See, that was exactly right. That was you
They were
nervously
just
laughing.
practicing, bro. They needed to get it all out.
Yeah, exactly. You're
Dogs
just
is appealing
nervously
to some
laughing.
sort of
at the
broad
fact that,
psychological
I
state
makes
of mind
1,000
that,
times more sense than
yeah, like,
what you're saying.
they were just like emotionally all over the place and like they just had fits of, no, it makes way more sense of their method acting, but they engaged in a fit of pretend laughter prior to getting on the camera in order to create a more authentic performance. Dude.
Yeah, do you think just sarcastically saying what I said back to you changes the fact that
you're cooked, buddy?
Does nervous laughter exist?
Oh,
There just are mechanisms for acting. We can disagree on whether or not these are mechanisms for acting. They follow what the mechanisms of acting are. We can say that they're not the mechanisms of nervous acting and that it is just nervous laughter, but you know.
Rick, does nervous laughter exist? Is it common for people that do public speaking?
I've seen
Let's
it.
move on to the
We're done here. You guys can't engage with even just the slightest bit of pushback against it.
Okay, wait. No, let's actually get this point out. Let's not run away from it.
Yeah, great. Does nervous laughter exist? And does
No.
it happen?
The point before I got interrupted. On the Epstein Island point. The photos
I don't
that
even know if these pictures are from the same building.
a lot of people here want the Epstein Temple to be real. We looked at pretty much every drone footage that happens, and like you can look at these drone footages yourself. Let's just say if it was the case that these are photos of the actual Epstein Temple, Epstein Temple. Yeah, if you just Google it, it's all going to look. Nothing in this is going to betray what it actually looks like.
But there's tons of aerial footage of Epstein Island where
Yes.
that building is there.
Yes, that is true.
So
and none of
sorry,
it, none
again,
of
I
it
couldn't
betrays
hear
the
what you
view that
said
we
because I was
have.
muted. So, what's your conclusion about this temple? Stop talking to me about whether it's 3D. I just assume all that's true. Just what's your conclusion?
Okay, yes. So this first photo is the photo that we're all shown of Epstein Island. Everybody agrees this is Epstein's temple. Yet it is painted to look 3D from one angle. You look at the other photos, the doors are fake. The painted doors that are painted onto it are not the actual doors. It is a flat surface that is made to look 3D from one angle. The tiling isn't even done in the back because it was never made to be viewed from the back. That is a assumption, but that is a logical conclusion.
Have we got any photographs of what it looks like on the inside, Yasukeh? Like it's
what is the
outside
actual
footage.
conclusion from all of this? Instead of just the temple's fake, the temple is fake, and therefore,
does
what's
the inside architecture match up with what's on the outside?
It just looks like a normal old room. Like there are some photos that have like a clear view of the inside, and it's just a bunch of ladders and paint buckets.
Yeah, it is just a facade, but it is a building.
And so,
Yeah,
so this.
Go ahead, yes.
So this is a painted facade, and the mainstream reports on this building.
That 10 times. Can you just get to the conclusion,
yes.
please?
The mainstream reports on this building all of the time. Why
You've
have
repeated
they
that
not,
10 times as well.
Why have they not ever brought up the fact that it is a painted facade? Why does nobody ever bring it up?
You ready? Because it doesn't matter. People make buildings with painted facades all the time. So why does this matter?
Because it's not authentic building. What's the interior look like? This is a very wealthy person's building on an island, and they've got a couple of paint buckets and just put together a janitor's closet. Like this should be especially for the keto ring that they're rolling with.
Yeah, it should be relevant when they're constantly reporting on this building. They're constantly reporting on this building, yet they're never bringing up that this is a fake building.
Why would it be relevant? What does it matter to anything?
It's relevant insofar as they report on this building thousands of times. They do. Epstein
What's the reporting say?
They don't talk about the building being fake. They just talk about things in general.
The building is the iconography put forward as far as the story is. It's like the front cover of the book, essentially. That's the thing. When you think of Epstein and Epstein's Island, you think of that guy killing himself, apparently, and that building in particular. And it gives it a time and a place. It makes it so much more real in that regard. And then it's also kind of curious that it seems to have a very similar design layout to Ellen DeGeneres' stage show. That's a conspiracy.
I do have a conclusion on it, and that Epstein is fake. There's never been an international blackmail scheme. It is designed to make people think that there is an idea that there is a need for an international blackmail scheme where all of these rich, powerful people go to the island and they get put under the thumb of whoever Epstein's controllers are. But there is no need for an international blackmail scheme.
And your evidence for that is that the building
there is
was
actually a large blackmail scheme at play. And that blackmail scheme at play is basically going to try to, if it's starting to get whispers that it might be sort of getting a little bit too close to being revealed, that they would create a whole fake version somewhere else with a completely different set of names to, put everyone in a tailspin, essentially, right?
So your argument is because they didn't finish this building as a legitimate, Muslim mosque-looking temple, then that means the entire Epstein thing is fake. It couldn't just be that instead of on an island importing all the stonework necessary or making a heap of really bespoke features, he instead chose for something functional like a door that's lovely glass that he can look out of instead of an actual wooden door that would say stop breezes coming in and not be able to get out, and like you have poor sunlight, all those sorts of things. So you can not trap the bugs outside and have the sunlight come in. None of that makes sense to me. I understand that someone might just do an aesthetic look for a building, but then make it with a bunch of modern features as well, so that you can hide the modern features for the look, but you can have the modern features for the utility. You guys can't understand this concept at all, and because of that, Epstein's fake.
Yeah, the tiling on the backside wasn't done. The only logical conclusion is that it was made for that photo shoot. There is no other explanation.
Have you ever been in a house before? Have you ever been in a house?
Nope, never.
Or how about like an old Western town? Have you ever seen an old Western town?
No.
Okay, so that's great.
You've been
I
in the
haven't
house,
either.
Yasuke?
I'm in Australia, but in America, in Australia, they do a lot of similar things where they make the facade of the building very complicated, very beautiful. They'll have like pillars and cornices. We have a lot of really cool pre-war architecture that people come to my town for. But at the back, it's just a plain box with some windows. End of story. Mic drop. Suck shit.
You prove nothing.
Yeah, I mean the 3D.
I literally
is
described how people don't finish the back of buildings every fucking day,
Where's the
everywhere in
base
the
of your
entire
layer
fucking
cake?
world, and it's been going
Where's the
for
base of your
hundreds
layer
of
cake?
goddamn years. Oh my god, you people!
I want the foundations of your layer cake, mate. Where's the foundation?
So the foundation
way-
is
yeah,
the
reality.
way-
The foundation is that I can
You live
look
in a
at buildings
town
in my own
that has a
hometown.
facade.
With my own hometown, the buildings are just square boxes, and at the back of the box, there's just raw brick and some windows, and at the front of the box, there's facades with pillars and verandas and all sorts of lovely little architectural features because people only care about the look of the front of the property.
You've already said that. You're repeating
Yeah,
yourself.
also-
And you've got
also the-
nothing
the
in
It wasn't
response.
convincing the
Rio.
first time.
You've
when
got
you do
nothing in response.
when you do fake 3D space with painting, it is only visible from a particular angle, and any other angle, it looks obvious that it is falsely painted. Like there's tons of people who can, paint things that it looks like it's a wall, but it looks like it's there's actually depth to it. Like it's actually an entire street with a bunch of people on it, and et cetera, et cetera.
He's talking about a town center and a shop. Like shops have
So
facades.
what part of your house
and
do
he's
you
trying to
drive
say
up?
that that's like these guys put in 3D detailed paint or used the paint in such a way that it gave three-dimensional geometry that just wasn't there on what's considered to be like a very exclusive building. Do you think that they would do that?
If you fly into Epstein Island, right, you're not going to like land at whatever his little landing strip is.
Sorry, yes.
And then walk all the way around to the other side of the temple and just enter in through the back or the side gate, are you? No. You're going to get driven up in that weird all-wheel drive buggy thing they have. You're going to get driven up to the entrance. And so as you drive up, the look of the building is only important from that one direction that you're moving towards it from. So that's why they put in that 3D paint to make it look cool from just one direction. The same way they don't finish the back of the property because no one's going there. It's going in through the cool doors, look in the cool building, and do the weird pedophile stuff because that's what pedophiles care about.
Where's all the creepy pedo stuff then happen? Does it happen inside that building or does it happen somewhere else?
I don't know. I'm not a pedophile.
Well, you seem to know all the stuff about this story, so I mean, why are you getting involved?
I know about architecture, you idiot.
You know nothing of architecture, sir.
Okay, I'm in a California bungalow.
You were poking.
I was in a Edwardian double-story in a town nearby last week. I live in a brick veneer. Okay.
You know nothing.
I know that we have pre-war British architecture in my town because we weren't bombed like London was. So a lot of people that come and look at the architecture for old London buildings will often come to my town so they can look at our buildings so they understand some of the techniques used to build our buildings because the ones in London were all bombed in the 40s. We weren't bombed because we're in Australia. Sucks to be UK. I'm sorry, Rick, that you're just so affronted by me actually trying to understand broad concepts instead of being like just hyper-focused on, yeah, but what if bros?
No, you're actually doing the opposite. You're actually doing the opposite in that the most logical conclusion of all of these details is that it was made for a photo shoot. Every single thing points to that on every particular detail.
Let's run the logic of that, okay? Mine is that Epstein did it so it looks good when he pulls up, and that he didn't finish the back because none of his guests would go out the back. Okay, that's pretty ubiquitous for everywhere around the world. Places like that exist. They look cool from the front. You don't go into the servants area because that's where the servants go. Rich people live in the rich house, not the servants. Yours is that they faked it. So there's a group of people that faked it. There's a group of people that know it's faked. There's a group of photographers that came in and faked it. The builders all knew it was going to be fake. And that there has to be some overarching conspiratorial group of people that decided to do this just to manipulate people like me into thinking that there's some pedophile with a list of other pedophiles that could potentially come out and ruin a political agenda. Which one's simpler?
One, the position that you gave for my position isn't actually my position. I just reject that dichotomy in general.
Okay, how about you
But
lay
so-
out your position? Because it took me 30 seconds to lay it out for you. So how about you take 30 seconds to lay it out for me? So that
It
I'm
took
not
30 seconds for you not to lay it out correctly. So you wasted all of our times. Thank you.
No, so
Yeah, take
just
30 seconds to lay it out.
just a refutation of your position is that it is a 25 by 15 foot building or something like that. There is no back. And the backside, like the stairs that go up to it in the photo that I just posted, you would see the unfinished tiling as you come up these stairs to the actual main entrance of the place. So you would see the unfinished place. So it's not that the backside is unfinished that nobody would ever go to. And also, with there being a nice view of the ocean, you're going to be going around the building. And also, it doesn't look nice from the front because somebody who goes to the front of it, they see that it is fake painted to look 3D and it's not even a good paint job. As soon as you get close to the building, for anybody who would actually use it, you would see that like this is the detail of the painting on the building. This is not made to look nice for anybody who's going into the building.
What's your point?
I mean, the point here is that this is clearly painted for the photo shoot.
Not the point of why you're trying to destroy my thing. I want you to lay out your conspiracy. Why did they do this? How do you know it? Who's involved?
Yeah, it's just my position. Yeah, it's just simply my position on Epstein in general is that I don't believe that blackmail is a viable method for there being a grander conspiracy to keep everything hidden. And the idea that everything is kept silent by blackmail implies that there is a possibility for white hats, that there are people that can get into positions of power who are secretly based and secretly actually are a guy. But if you were never able to get into... Yeah, so it's the difference of there is the Epstein Island temple being faked for the photo shoot. That is just a value-free thing. And then there is the question of why. The question of why is a different question. I don't need to have a logical conclusion for why it was faked.
In order to trick people like me to think that there's these lists of blackmailable celebrities. Yeah? So I'm correct about that as well.
I don't think that blackmail happens.
I know, but it's in... Okay, listen. It's in order to trick people like me into thinking that there is this list of blackmailable celebrities. That's
not people
correct,
like you.
That's well, then who? The general public?
Normie, conspiracy bros, and normal people.
So people like me, normal people.
You're not normal people.
Great. So far, I'm 100% correct on my Rick says strawman and you say strawman of your position. And next, this is all organized by some overarching entity, some group of people who organized and built this building or got this building built to take photos in order to trick people like me. Is that also your position?
It is part of the overarching narrative.
Okay, so everything I said about your position so far has been correct. You're not capable of following the conversation.
Yes, I am
I'm
retarded.
done, boys. I'm off to work. See you later.
But yes, I have never been inside of a house. I have lived in the basement janitor closet of a townhouse in China for the past 20 plus years. Every time I get somebody who's thinking about real conspiracies to believe a super insane, crazy conspiracy that I try to push, I get one half cup of white rice, and that is what I subsist on.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up?
I never really got. It sounds to me like you don't think Epstein's Island was a real thing.
I don't want to say it to just the Epstein Island, but the entire Epstein narrative was intentionally crafted and that it is not real. I think that this whole list of, oh, hey, there's a bunch of people that went to Epstein Island and that they're potentially getting blackmailed by some like pedophile stuff is theater. I think it's theater.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all at that, to be honest. Obviously, I don't know either way.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
kind of
it
the thing
definitely
they would do.
seems like a psyop. Yeah, that would probably play a lot of roles. Yeah, why they would have that be in the news and all that. There's always a reason for that.
Because it is one of the most popular mainstream conspiracies that you hear on like morning news radio of like Epstein didn't kill himself.
I wonder if just the threat of putting someone, we can put your name on that list, if they, going back and forth with a celebrity who's not quite doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not quite doing what they're told. We can put you on that list if you know.
Yeah, and it's just one of the biggest reasons why I would say that it is not viable as a theory is that people overestimate how reliable blackmail is for keeping people quiet.
I would have to say that that's a pretty good paint job, actually. The paint job is done in such a way to make it look like from a 90-degree angle, that things are inset, like it's an architecture with arches and stuff. But when you get close to it, you realize it's a flat surface. Yeah, it's a really cool paint job, but I don't see where you say the building is not a building. I don't know.
Yeah, no. So it's just fundamentally that like it is, the backside is unfinished. You look at the inside and there's just paint buckets and ladders. Like it just seems like a supply closet. The doors are fake. It is not meant to actually be a building that people go into. It is a painted facade for the photo shoot of being put in every mainstream article about Epstein Temple and every conspiracy video about Epstein Temple. And like people who go really, really in depth into Epstein conspiracies, I never see anybody inputting this detail into their theory. So it's like in the same idea how like the cohort of people who are like, all right, flat Earth is legit and the 24-hour sun is legit. There's to some degree a need or desire or idea to where you should incorporate that new piece of information into your idea. And in the same way of if you have an Epstein conspiracy, you need to find some way to coherently input this new piece of information into the conspiracy. But I never see anybody do that.
There is a big house though, right, on the island.
Yeah, there's a house. There's a bunch of interesting things there.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things on the island, but this is specifically Epstein Temple.
Right. I mean, wait. I just googled it. It doesn't have that dome on like yours does. How come?
Yeah, the dome fell off at one point because the dome isn't actually part of the building.
Oh.
Yeah, the dome was fake too. And then also, if you notice with the first photo, it intentionally doesn't show the backside of it. So it gives you the illusion of thinking that maybe it's actually a much bigger building than it actually is. Like this.
I don't know how long you guys have been on this topic, but I'd probably be up for a topic change myself. I don't know if at some point here.
Yeah. If anybody has a topic.
I don't know how long you've been on this one, but it's kind of a cringe topic in general because it's just like what it implies. But just in general, just in terms of, I think that's what they want though. They want these like darker ideas of these things. I'm not saying that they're not happening. Like there is obviously like abuse to children happening, but the way they try to make it all public like that is even more kind of it's like they're like flashing a gang sign or something.
Yeah. And the way that I frame it, like I don't like talking about those things either. So like when I'm talking about it, I frame it like not talking about that information.
Right, it's like
'Cause-
just reporting on what's claimed, maybe. As
Yeah,
I hear
because
you.
the way
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
yeah, the way a lot of people talk about it is they get like really into gruesome details, and they kind of thrive on that. And I think that that's a little bit weird. A little bit weird.
I think what I would do is I would, you know, they'd have the similar situation, right? Because Richard Branson, I remember he owns an island, doesn't he? Like I remember thinking that's fucking pretty awesome. But yeah, if that was if I was in that situation, I could very much see me because I kind of look at the people as like, I know I've used all these terms before, but like if you think of the Monopoly, or perhaps the Lords of the Manor and the cattle, something like that. So, but anyway, I could definitely see like I'd have the narrative for the sheeple, which would be this, but the actual place would be hidden, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, and that could be a viable narrative to give, is that the temple that they're giving you is not actually the real temple. It's actually in a secret, like 300 feet underground, and this is just the entrance. Or like it happens somewhere else on the island. Like that could be a coherent thing, but nobody ever says that, you know?
Well, I mean, I think Andy, you're just saying that if the whole thing is kind of a psyop in general, just to have had these kinds of themes in the news and people even talking about it in general, just it kind of like, because like I think like what we're talking about, like that kind of act, like whether even that guy, whatever is even involved with that individual or whatever, but is a very demonic thing in the first place, like doing that to another human and all that. So then getting us talking about it is sort of like the demonic energy, gets us like feasting on it more. However, I mean, if it could go against if someone was speaking out about it as well, though, it could go against that force. But I'm just saying, just like I'm not talking about us talking about it now. I'm just saying in general, like the way they put it in the media is that kind of thing, and probably why they do a lot of other things that like are, yeah, like just putting all kinds of like pretty much just like borderline perverse stuff like within the media just to get people exposed to that, rather than other things, because it's all that kind of programming component of it.
Yeah, the number one thing to rile people up is like abuse of children. And that is like weaponized to a very large degree. And like it's really it's like with a lot of videos that you see today of like pedophile hunters, to where they're like just random guys who like bait some guy into meeting up, and they just like beat the hell out of some guy, to where they're just like within an inch of their life or something like that. Like sure, yes, obviously, like pedophiles aren't good people, but like it's a very perverse, like sick kind of twisted thing to actively seek out and enjoy stuff like that. Like it's not good for the soul.
Yeah, I mean, you're describing some of the darkest areas of things right there. Yeah, it's really intense. Well, I thought what you were gonna say is guys who do the baiting and then they make like a YouTube short about it or whatever, like where they just say this guy, he was trying to, like those. That's what I thought. Where like guys make YouTube channels out of basically doing what you were saying, kind of like the Chris Hansen thing or whatever, like whatever that one. Yeah. But they just do it for their channel, But then they also try to call the cops, and like they also try to,
Yeah, there's some that have just given up on calling the cops. They don't even call the cops because, like, they're beating the guy up really badly, and it's just for the content.
Yeah, that I'm not surprised that has happened in reality or whatever, but it's not something I was completely like had thought of really, but that's really intense. Yeah, wow. Well, I know what happens in prisons. Like there's the old story of like anyone who's like harmed children who's in prison often gets like killed or like beaten up very, very badly, because there's just gonna be some of the other prisoners that have that, like you're saying, that like murderous rage of that level, to where they'll just, if in that environment. So because it's kind of that common thing they claim, like people that are in prison for like either like killing a child or anything sexual with a child, like usually they get like the most kind of physically attacked and all that, and maybe even killed in prison.
Yeah.
Well, this is very dark, what we're saying right now. But what was the topic?
Any topic
Wow.
change? Anybody have a topic?
Well, I was actually going to say earlier, like if we're just going to do a hard U-turn, because like, yeah, that is a very dark area of what we're talking about there, but it is in reality, so it does happen. But if we want to do a shift, I was actually, of all things, I was going to say, like, are people still like going all out about the Antarctica trip being fake? Like, are they still making like videos on it, or has it kind of cooled off out there? They're not really talking about it much, or is there still a lot of people that think it's fake, or have a lot of those kind of like not really saying it's fake anymore? Or are they still doing it more so? Or I know it's a hard topic change, but it's also a topic we were talking about so regularly, in the past.
Dude, Divergent, that YouTube channel, he's got like 120,000. I think he's from like Czech or something. He recently did a video on it. He thinks it's fake. I thought that was interesting.
I caught the end of. By the way, crisis actors are real. Everybody, okay? Just please look into it. Anyway, I caught the end of Jem. You know how Jem does that like Sunday thing where he basically mocks flat earthers for an hour or something. I don't know. I sometimes go in there at the end, and I caught the end of the thing, and the last video that he played was Dave Weiss, and Dave Weiss it's absolutely fake. They're faking the sun. You know what I mean? I couldn't help but comment and just say, this looks terribly desperate to me. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my first instinct would be to think that Wizzy and Jaren must be, shills or whatever. That's logistically easier, right? But then you've got the issue with the marathon, 60 people plus every year. I don't know how many years that's been going on. 5 years or something? I don't know. But this is it's ridiculous. I don't know.
Yeah, in this sense, the least coherent position is the Dave Weiss position, that both the 24-hour sun is fake, and they were able to fake it in real time to people that were there in a way to where there's no way that they actually could have figured it out.
Right.
Yeah, the sun is very unique in many ways.
Yeah, like the Dave Weiss position is the hardest position to defend. Because you not only have to have every single angle of it being faked with everybody being in on it, but then you also have to add this other layer of deception as well, which makes it infinitely more complicated. But it really just seems like he's not actually a real person coming to that conclusion through reason or evidence. It just seems like he wants to still deny the 24-hour sun, but he doesn't want to explicitly call the people who are his friends shills, which makes sense from his perspective why he would have that.
Sorry, were you finished? That was
nope. I was finished.
Yeah, well, we should even like repeat that point. That was very interesting. Yeah, because I haven't really thought about this whole topic in a while. It just kind of popped in my head, and I was like, oh, like where are you guys at on it? And then if we want a kind of a topic change, so we haven't talked about it in a while. So him holding the position that like they are legit, like they're not agents or shills or anything, and they got tricked by it, and there's really not a real 24-hour sun there. Yeah, dude, that's a lot for him to like. I guess that's kind of, if he's trying to maintain that, that's like the hoops you would have to go through just like to be able to maintain that. Because let me just ask you, like, Yasuke, and like, and just in general, it's just like a few questions. It's not really like drilling you necessarily. It's just kind of asking, but like, you would agree that in the north, like if you're like, at like, let's say 20 degrees north, and and the sun is all the way in the Tropic of Cancer for the northern summer, that the sun is rising north of east and setting south north of west, right? It's kind of making like an arc, like a horseshoe if you're looking north.
Yeah. So the sun paths in both the south and the north do kind of have that opposite reaction. Yes.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at ultimately.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just because, like in the north, it horseshoe. I call it like a horseshoe because it's kind of. And then if you keep going north, you're going to get the 24-hour sun effect. But yeah, in the south, like even in Punta Arenas or in Australia, like anywhere in the south like that, where you can see the sun rising, south of east and setting south of west, it's mirrored and is opposite. Therefore, that 24-hour sun effect would completely make sense, but it keep happening if you go south. So yeah, somebody like David Weiss, I don't know what rebuttal he has for that. I think he might just say like the azimuthal grid of vision, like bends it maybe, or he would say kind of warps it and makes it look like that, even though it's still actually just circling around on a plane. Like he may say that or something to that effect, that it could just be like apparent and it just kind of, is warped or something like that. But it's actually a pretty significant thing because the entire arc path of the sun is completely not fitting what the AE map does, in terms of in the south like that, in terms of the arcing of that. And then the fact that like the whole southern sky like stayed blue, like as the sun was setting that south of west, it's clearly like looping around, that way. So when they fly there, it makes sense. It just mirrors like that way in the north. So
yeah,
so that's why like holding that position, like if it doesn't do that arc pattern of what it would be on an AE when you're in the south like that, but it does, the anti-arc as it were. How could somebody like even Dave Weiss, like how could he hold that position and then try to say it's all fake? Because then what does that mean? The sun, the southeast and southwest sun in Australia or Punta Arenas, South America, like that's the fake sun? Is that also the fake sun? That's not the real sun either?
No, everybody in Chile and Australia are chills.
They're all under a fake sun. There's only a sun in the north. That's another theory. Yeah, the sun is okay. That'd be hilarious if somebody thought that. The sun is all fake in the south. It's all a simulated sun.
Where am I, Yasukeh? Where am I? What do you mean?
You think you're in Australia, but you're in like
Outer Ponder.
You actually are officially in Outer Ponder, yeah, because like you're on the other side of the equator. That's a time warp there.
Yeah, you're in somewhere in like Indonesia, one of the biggest Indonesian islands that they just tell you is Australia.
Oh, they do call it Asia.
Very true. The only kind of thing with that is that that was a publicly available piece of information for the past 10 years. So if that is the only piece of information that would be required to buy the idea that there's a 24-hour sun, then why was everybody skeptical of the 24-hour sun? And why was that piece of evidence not satisfactory until this trip? As in the sun path during our winter in the south.
Yeah, well, I guess you maybe would have to ask individual people, like I guess, like what their process was with it, because I've been aware of that southern arc path of the sun. We've talked about it for years. I mean, even if you go back to like 2016, 17, 18, like the debates back then, it was brought up back then as well, because the Globers felt like it was a strong point for them, because they would say, oh, the sun rises south of east, south of west. And not very many people necessarily denied the sun did rise and set in those positions. Like, I don't really remember. Maybe at some point people maybe said they didn't believe that or something. But I mean, it's so able to be verified pretty easily. Like, just be in Australia and just look at, you know what I mean? It's like anywhere in Australia. I mean, South America is more or less populated. So, and South Africa probably somewhat as well. So Australia is maybe the most populated area. But yeah, I mean, it can be easily observed. But I think, yeah, so it was discussed for years. It was always a bit of in terms of that AE map with the sun doing that, it was always something that contradicted that. But I don't know that it was ever necessarily settled. Like, I could go through all the different sides that were argued or debated, I could go through them all in terms of it, in terms of the arguments for why, on both of all of the sides of that. But and then you were saying, why has them going, shifted that even more? But I think, well, just the fact that they were able to follow that southeast, southwest sun path, and they were able to see like the sky that was kind of lit blue in the south when they did that live stream from there, it was like blue. And then there is other footage of people taking that plane trip, but I think theirs is pretty, stands out. It's probably like the best, continued footage, because there's other ones on YouTube that are just like a part of it or whatever. It's just someone putting their camera out the window, or it shows them getting on the plane, but not necessarily the whole trip. So yeah, I think just the fact that all that additional documentation of the whole trip, you know, and then those guys being able to go there, land there, and then get you know really some of the first footage that's ever really existed of the sun there, because like we all knew what existed before. I was digging all through all that stuff at Union Glacier and all that, so we knew what we had, which was pretty good. We did have one 24-hour sun footage that I had found, and then others that showed the sun moving in the south, and there weren't really any huge claims that all that was fake. Like people were not really ripping it apart and saying it was fake. So we already kind of had all of that as it were. But I think them going, yeah, for a lot of people was just even that much more documentation and just confirmation of what really happens, because it's a pretty rare place to go, Antarctica like that. So not very many people get to go. And, you know, even for them, yeah, it costs, you know, 30, 40,000. So it's obviously a unique type of thing. So I think, yeah, them being able to document it, and people that we've known for years too. So yeah, I mean, you know all that, but yeah, I'm just kind of
It's just a question of like outside of the trip, was there an answer? Like, I'm obviously speaking in generalities. There's going to be people with a whole bunch of different positions, but was the position on explaining the sun path in Australia? Oh, hey, here's a mechanistic explanation for how it might be possible. Or was it, hey, that's a good question, I don't know, law? I guess those would really be the only two solutions that there could be. What was the answer for it back then for people who, before this trip, for the past 10 years, have been skeptical of a 24-hour sun, while still understanding the sun path in the south?
Yeah. Well, I think one thought was just like the idea of like that there was some way that now I'm not claiming this argument, I'm just kind of giving one side of it. And I think this might be something to, because I heard I actually don't really know, like with David Weiss, what his most recent kind of argument is for this, because I don't really listen to a lot of his things these days too much, but he did mention, like there was one, he was talking about the sun rising south of west and setting south of east. Sorry, rising south of east and setting south of west. And he said, this is like one thing I did see of his recently. He said, oh, we have an explanation for that. And he just like fluffed it off really quickly and very kind of, you know, just said, oh, we already have an explanation for that. Now, I haven't really heard what his is recently, but I'm pretty sure it may have something to do with the one I'm about to say. Although, but yeah, basically just the idea of, I mean, there was that term like azimuthal grid of vision, or just the azimuthal grid, or personal atmospheric dome. All those kind of terms have been used. And to what extent that, you know, people have talked about different ideas of to what exactly that is, you know, like, is it just how we view, or is it actually something like electromagnetic, or something, you know, not necessarily physical, but something like an actual limit that has certain features to it. And then if you take like a magnifying glass and you put it over like an AE map and you move like a light on it, you actually can get that anti-arc effect. So I think some people consider the idea that like maybe the way that the atmosphere, you know, that you could have that rising south of east, south of west, even though the sun would actually be circuiting around Polaris like an AE map. So I'm just saying that was one. It's like things linked around that, like the idea of that. And if you look at like Walter Bislin's thing, where he has that little personal, see what Walter Bislin has is he has the actual hemispherical dome of the actual like stellarium, like what we actually see, put with the azimuthal grid. But then it has the sun doing that circuit. So like those don't really match. And that's why like even when the sun's coming around that way, you'll see in the little, even on Walter Bislin's, on his little personal atmospheric dome thing, on the Bislin thing, you'll see the sun rising south of east and setting south of west. But the sun that's circling around the AE map like that is coming from the northeast, you're coming from the northeast, not the southeast. So, so yeah, I think there have been some arguments like that maybe like something is happening there with like refraction or like apparent position where it would like displace it like that, but still be the sun circuiting around. And the one way that can be modeled is if you, like I said, if you use like a glass dome, like an actual glass dome, but I'm not saying we all have a glass dome, like a personal glass dome around us. However, you can replicate it like that over a planar surface in terms of the lighting of it. But that doesn't really mean that it is circuiting like that per se. It just shows though that you can get that anti-arc effect from an arc and an anti-arc. But that would maybe only explain the way that it rises and sets like that. It wouldn't really explain a 24-hour sun, you know, if someone is still trying to claim it's circuiting around. But I think that's kind of where the arguments were based around, is that there's something would be happening with the personal kind of dome kind of idea that would do that. But that doesn't really explain the actual 24-hour sun if you want to still maintain that the sun is one thing circuiting around like an AE map.
Yeah. Because also just the thing with like the whole Walter Bislin's model is that like it is just taking data from what is without actually giving mechanisms for it. Like there's no like the Walter Bislin's model shows 24-hour sun, but there is no mechanism behind it. Ergo, there is no prediction behind it because it's just taking what already is and mapping it out, as opposed to here's a set of rules that we have. Let's reverse engineer without any assumptions to mimic what we actually see in reality.
Well, but if you but here's one idea of a mechanism, just to throw an idea out there, would be like, what if the sky? So imagine, like, let's say there was like a, you know, like that sphere in Las Vegas, that huge sphere thing, and on the inside it's like a huge like hemisphere of like a screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like, let's say that thing was surrounding you, like everywhere you went, meaning that as you walk on the earth, imagine like if that sphere could walk with you. So let's say you're in the middle of the sphere is on wheels, okay, and then you can, when you walk, the sphere moves with you. And on the ceiling of that sphere, really anything could be projected. It could have anything. But that also plays into the idea of like a lenticular lens, that the sky is like a lenticular lens as well. Meaning that, like, you know, those lenses where you see a different image as you tilt it. Well, what if like every coordinate on Earth, no matter what coordinate you're at, you know, latitude, longitude, etc., you're going to see that sky. So from that coordinate, that sky, that coordinate, that sky. And if that screen was moving with you, couldn't technically anything be displayed through that mechanism, including a 24-hour sun, even one that would, from that perspective, even follow you as you go? Now, again, I'm not putting this forward as saying that this is what it is. It is an idea, though, that others have talked about as well in the past, and we've talked about it as well. But I'm just saying, like, what do you think of that idea? Like, if it moved, like with Walter Bislin's, it moves with you. As you move the dude around, you can whip that thing, and it works everywhere. So what I'm saying is, what if the sky actually just is that? It moves with you. And whether it's like a lenticular, holographic, crystalline, toroidal, magnetic, whatever it is, if that moved with you, couldn't you actually replicate what is shown on Bislin's, which is basically a hemisphere with the sun rising and setting, and doing the two 24-hour suns in the north and south? Now, you'd have to say, okay, well, are we still talking about an AE map or some kind of a different map? But either way, just that part of it. Like, you can move the little hemisphere around. You can whip it. I mean, I could do the screen share now and show, but you can move it anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if that's just how the sky looked, the way the Bislin shows it, anywhere on Earth, couldn't that fit for any type of planar surface?
Yeah, so that could work. It's just the question of like, what is the of like the sky moving based on where you're at and kind of whipping around in that sense. It's just the question of like, what is the actual mechanism that is the causal agent for that whipping effect? Like, what is a demonstration of the dimensions for how a particular lens or dome or something would be some kind of medium for the light to travel through to get that effect? That would be the question at hand.
Yeah, dude. No, I hear you. Because, dude, I was about to post this. Okay, this shout out to Brian Leakey for this, dude, but goes right with what you're saying. Wait, did that? Okay, I just posted it. Okay, so that Brian Leakey, he just took a pad of paper and just made stars, all parallel lines. Just made those stars, and that's it. It's just, you know, a pencil, pen or whatever, looks like a green pen or whatever, where he just like literally made stars on every line. So
yeah, I remember seeing this. It was interesting.
And then when you put this, like you were talking about a lens or a dome type thing, when you put this on it, it ends up showing an arc and an anti-arc, and then straight in the center. And that's putting like a dome over like a flat surface of parallel lines.
Yeah, the way that this would be analogous is I'm not sure if that dome is towards you, as in the round side is towards the observer, because it would be the opposite in the sense of the dome would be on the side of the paper and the flat side would be where you're at because you exist.
That's the full video. So yeah, you should be able to see it there. That you might be able to get more info. I know what you're saying. Is the dome right side up or upside down in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, what I'm saying is that let's say, well, this is kind of. I mean, I'm not saying that the stars are all in parallel lines, but isn't that wild that parallel lines can just with that be refracted right into that, clockwise and counterclockwise, northern, southern. And so I guess it just plays back to that idea before, like if that's something that's following with you, do you think that would still allow for whatever planar surface to then be able to, well, anyways, yeah, it goes back to that too, but.
Yeah, that'd be a good start for a mechanism. But I can't quite wrap my head around how it would explain more. But it is a good starting point to then refine into greater detail.
Yeah, I guess it would be like this. So like if you're on the ground of a room in a house or whatever, and then you have like lights up on the ceiling. Well, if the lights are fixed, and then when you move in relation to those fixed lights, then that's one kind of thing. It's like, okay, those are fixed. Now I know the stars are always moving, but if we just freeze it in a moment, as you move around, is it fixed as you move when you freeze frame it? Like that's one setup. And of course the globe earth changes that because they say that the globe is the thing that's rotating the ball you're on versus the actual sky. So there's a whole difference with that obviously part as well, but so that's like one kind of thing where the stars are fixed and then you're moving in relation to it. The other one is, like I was saying, the other idea, kind of like the one I was saying, would be more like if you're in a room and the stars are on like a rack or the lights are on a rack, and as you move, the rack moves with you. You see what I mean? So the whole rack of lights is actually moving as you move. And then you can bring in like a lenticular or something. But you see what I mean? Like those two kind of coordinates, like one being the stars are fixed and you're moving versus like the stars change based on where you move.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do hear like in terms of Walter Bislin's thing, like on an AE map, just kind of having this like 24-hour sun thing that just whips all around the outside. Yeah, that is pretty. There would have to be, if that was the way the Earth was, like the real truth of it, there would have to be a huge explanation for that.
Yeah, and that's just my problem is that like the people that push that are just like, in my view, dishonest about the framing, and that it is by definition not predicting anything. Because to predict something, you have to have mechanisms that you are reverse engineering the solution from. Whereas if it is just taking the data that already exists and then mapping it out on something, that is not a prediction. And in that sense, it's not even my beef with the model; it's a beef with the like the dishonesty in the framing. Which nobody else has to co-sign. It's just my view.
Wait, say it one more time, just to make sure we get it. Would you mind saying it one more time?
People that promote that model, they say this model predicted the 24-hour sun. But to predict something, you have to have mechanisms that reverse engineer an outcome without having any pre-assumed data. but the Walter Bisland's model just takes the data that is already there and then maps it out. There is no prediction involved because there's not even any formula going on outside of the actual mapping of itself. So there is no prediction. So saying that the model predicted anything is dishonest.
Okay, no, I mean, yeah, if you're critiquing
Well,
that position, I think I
well,
hear
hold
you
on. The reason
I don't know.
the
Yeah, go
reason
ahead.
he said that it was predicted and that it was and I agree with you to some extent, it's because he made this model before they actually went down there. So he was able to replicate the phenomena before they ever witnessed it.
Yes, but it doesn't have
That was the
yeah. It just doesn't have any prediction. And then whenever you question, like, oh, what is the mechanism for this about how light works like this, you get an AI generated meme of a fat glober talking about bendy light, as opposed to any like actual engagement.
yeah, but like let's say that we had like 10 functional models that pretty much match all the phenomena that the globe has. They would still be considered a model, you know. So even though I agree with you, like there's no like mechanisms, there's no like really any deep understanding because there's like lack of tangibility and verification. But if we're supposed to replicate this phenomena on a system of which many of us have appealed to over time, we would want to make sure that the phenomena it even applies. And so he was able to do that before we went down there. And so it's not to say that it is the case, but that it is an argument towards the fact that phenomena could exist on a planar situation. And that's, that people are just kind of like, they're ready to call something a model because everyone comes in here saying, oh, show me your flat earth model. But like, it's not a formal model. I totally understand that. It's
I
just
mean,
sort of
it's
like,
more of
these
a
are the hunch.
it's more of a map. It's more of here is mapping of data. Here is a chart. It's not a model. It's more of a chart, like a bar graph, just in a much more complicated form.
But you know what? A lot of the globe stuff is like that. They would appeal to something that is like a model, but it's like honestly no better than what you just said.
Yeah, that's fair. But other people being dishonest is no excuse to be dishonest yourself.
I don't think it's dishonest though, just to come from a position of challenge. Like we're challenged to try to come up with ideas, and then he came up with ideas that turned out to be valid in regards to replication, which is, it's I would say it's a good sign. I wouldn't say it is the case.
Yeah, it's just like if I said that everybody above $1 billion and all celebrities and stuff were literal aliens from Mars, and they secretly eat not eat babies. They secretly eat tofu in secret, right? And they subsist off of tofu and whale cum
Babies.
or something. Nope, whale cum. And I say that, if this would be the case, if we saw movies being made and if we saw TV and newscasting working exactly like it works right now, and this is proof of my theory because, the news channels talk about weather, and that weather has to do with their dolphin whale cum stuff. So in that sense, I'm not providing any mechanism whatsoever for why this information of what is relating to my theory. Unless I provide a mechanism, then it doesn't have any like predictive power.
Oh, well, I mean, he did provide. I mean, obviously, he's not just throwing out there that, oh, I got this effect. Like, he's able to actually produce a setup in which you get that replicatable effect with the stars and the sun. Now, one of the problems here is that he doesn't have it with the medium. So there's no medium. He's using reflective material. So when he's doing it, he has to do it with the light.
Are you talking about handmade model now?
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay,
thought that's what we were talking about. Yeah, like me personally, I would want to see it done from inside the frame, not from outside the frame. Now, I've heard a skepticism that he has used like lighting from the outside, but I mean, I would say that's still fair game. I mean, I don't know that all of the phenomena we see is totally within like any kind of enclosure or anything. So I don't know if that is something we should argue for or against. But as far as the stars go, man, he's able to replicate the effect of the star system the way that we see it, and I think that's super unique, very cool. Where the stars are essentially located in the center, and then there's this reflected counter rotation that is bouncing off of a fluid or like a mirror, and then it's hitting the side of the dome as you're passing through that area. I don't know. I think that's one of the hardest parts, right? It's like, how is this working? Now, me personally, I think that I think it's a refractive effect, and that there is no such thing as like the actual stars or the actual sun or actual moon. You're always looking at the apparent thing, whatever the thing is in the sky, because we already know that if there is a personal dome, then everything is being shaped toward your view, and if that's the case, everything is refractive. The whole star system that you see is refractive. It's all apparent. So if that is true, I think it's totally viable that a phenomena of a counter rotation in the south could be a refraction phenomena.
Yeah. So
likely because you're not. Well, the reason I need to bring that up is because you're not losing luminosity. Number one, and number two, we already know it's likely there's a medium up there, so we would have to incorporate it somehow.
Yeah, so this is like all the Joe Hanby stuff is great in that it's actually trying to look for a mechanism, and it's actually putting forth into making a prediction, and creating all of that stuff that would be a valid, plausible mechanism for how something could work. I was talking previously about the Walter Bislin model that does not have any mechanism
Right.
attached to it.
Right. Yeah, that was yeah, of course. That was honestly it was only used to show that light would have to bend in a certain way to work. That's about it.
Yeah, and then it was talked about as if it was a prediction, as if that model predicted the 24-hour sun, but there was no prediction because it was just
not at all.
Yeah.
It's a post-diction.
Yes. Yeah, so that was the origin of my beef.
Gotcha. My bad, dude.
Yeah, it's all good. Speaking of beef, I gotta go make dinner.
Yum.
Seems like most flat earthers are starting to accept the dome, a firmament. It seems like there's less and less people who believe in the infinite plane.
The crazier scenario than all the billionaires or aliens that eat tofu and babies and all that shit. The crazier scenario is that all the NBA players are women. That's actually crazier than that other one.
I do know that a beautiful woman will make someone who's gay straight. I've even heard a gay female that I worked for before. She said I would have made her straight. So even
Yeah,
even
works both ways,
even
man.
men can make female straight, gay straight. Oh, pardon?
Works both ways. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've given rides home to tons of lesbians who honestly I'm actually glad I don't have those videos anymore. But
Good for you.
no, it just got too risky. Too risky. People getting naked in my car, doing crazy shit, telling me they'd be gay, they'd be straight for me. I'm like, okay, lesbian, that's crazy now.
For sure. See, exactly. It's so true. They need men. They crave men.
Well, you should have converted her. It's sinful to be lesbian.
Well, I didn't have a condom, so
Use the pull-out method, bro. It's not
I
that
was
hard.
about to convert her real good. Actually, one of them was real cute. The other one wanted to watch.
And where did you find these fine ladies at?
Wouldn't you like to know, brother?
Maybe they were friends of a friend. It's a beautiful day on the flat earth, you know. I'm lucky to be alive. Every day I wake up, I have to thank God.
Amazing. Seems like you're very grateful, and that's awesome of you.
Yep. You gotta appreciate every moment, because you never know when it's gonna be your last.
Yes. The present.
Hey,
Hey.
I don't know where the topic's at because I was kind of away for a minute. I just got back, but I just want to ask real quick. Could you guys maybe just from what we were talking about earlier, because we were talking about like basically when people. Okay, so like from like 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, all those years, even 2020, 21, 22. Like the idea of the AE map with the one sun circuiting around, how that doesn't match with like the sun rising south of east and setting south of west, back to that. And I was kind of recounting, like I was describing a little bit like some of the ideas of like, you know, that maybe some have said that would be an explanation for an AE map with the sun doing that. But do you guys remember any other ones or like what the rebuttals were, or like arguments were as to how the sun could be rising south of east and south of west, let alone the whole 24-hour sun effect as well. But what do you guys remember like the arguments were for that?
Yeah, great question. That's something I should definitely be brushed up and ready to respond to. I don't think I have the most articulate response right now. Anyone else have any thoughts?
Well, the one thing I'll say on the one side of actually supporting it is that you can actually somewhat replicate it. Meaning if you take like I've talked about this for years, but you take like some water and put maybe some like dish soap or something that can have bubbles and get it to where you have a bunch of little bubble domes. And then take like a pen light or like a flashlight of some sort and then circuit around like a circle. And it's really fascinating because you'll see all the suns rising and setting, which is like the reflection on the bubble, you know, and you'll see them all rising and setting. And like you can actually replicate that anti-arc effect, which is what I was saying as well. Now, it doesn't necessarily describe like a whole 24-hour sun effect. There would have to be more something that would actually loop it around all the way. But at least the anti-arcing effect you can replicate. But yeah, but if you do that with all the bubbles and you move a light around, you'll see how the little light is rising and setting in all of the individual bubbles. It's pretty cool.
Yes, thank you. That is a great rebuttal, and I would agree with that. The sun is very interesting. You know, you could have two people side by side, and then each person has the sun. Like, okay, put two people in front of a lake, and the sun is on the opposite side, so it's like directly in front of them. interestingly enough, the sun has a direct line between each person that each person wouldn't be able to see the other person's line. That's from my experience, anyways. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, two people in front of the lake with the sun directly in front. Usually there's like a reflection of the sun right along the water, right to the viewer's feet. And it's like we can't really see our neighbor's line. And everyone has their own line to the sun. Anyways. But yeah, the TFE needs a good rebuttal. Gio, I'm not sure if you follow Flatzoid. He recently uploaded some information showing how maybe the 24-hour sun video was faked.
Yeah, from what I understood, that's why when I brought this topic up earlier, because we haven't really talked about it in a while, and even though we did talk about it like every day for a while there, but then we just haven't really talked about it for a while. That's why I had
Yeah.
brought it up. Yeah, as far as I know, I mean, I haven't really seen any of Flatzoid's recent streams, but I've seen some of like the thumbnails for him, and as far as I can tell, yeah, he's still saying that it's all fake or whatever, right? That they're all actors or that they faked it all. He thinks.
Well, in one video,
I guess I don't even know his exact position, so I shouldn't even try to steal it because I don't even know the whole thing. But yeah,
he believes that they went to a certain location, but he doesn't believe that well, I'm not sure. I should ask him what he believes. But in one of his recent videos, he was showing how the 24-hour sun video would have been faked. Let me see if I can find it and I'll post it. It's a short video. But he does believe that they did travel to Chile and then go to Chile's version or Chile's section of Antarctica. Because I believe Union Glacier, is that under Chilean authority? Because that's what the passport stamp that they received, right? I'll try to find the video.
Yeah, you could look into how that all works with the Antarctic Treaty System, and yeah, I mean certainly there's some jurisdiction there. Yeah, I mean they have that whole camp, and there's also like the Chilean camp. Remember how there's like the regular Union Glacier camp, and then there's another camp that's the Chilean one.
Yeah.
So I'm saying at Union Glacier, there's two camps. One of them is just for the Chilean camp, and then the other one is for everyone who visits the main one or whatever. So, and it put some things together because some of the footage that was shown from like 2021 of the solar eclipse from Union Glacier is that there was actually two shots of that eclipse. One of them was a 360 camera, and it was from pretty much probably similar to where Whitsett and all those guys actually were, because that's probably like that other camp area where it just has like that one blue building, because that's the one like in the 360 one from like 2021 where you can see all the camera guys all lined up and they're all there like looking at the sun and the whole eclipse. But they're there. They're like where the sun is kind of more like almost like above the mountain, or they're actually even so they're somewhere out there. It must be that similar area to where those guys were, the Duffy and Whitsett and Jaron, all those guys, when they were actually at that first camp where they set up the Starlink or whatever, and then they streamed from there and all that stuff. It's probably similar to where that one was taken from the eclipse one from 2021. Then there's this other eclipse footage that was over from the camp, and it was on like the right, like way on the other side of the mountain. Anyways, and that was actually the Chilean camp. And now that I've seen the overhead from the drone footage as well that they got, I could actually see that they're two separate camps. So I fully now figured that out. Or I figured it out a while ago, but it was like from them going, I fully registered. Oh, okay, that's really what's going on. There's actually two camp setups.
Oh, nice find. I did ask Jaron about the sun. He said it seemed like he felt like it was local. Like I asked him, how far did it appear to you? And he said it seemed like it was local. That's his own words. But yeah, I'd like to know exactly where the subsolar point was when it seemed local, because I guess the AE map has Australia on the other side of the plane where the sun should have been. So either Australia is in the wrong location, or something else.
I mean, dude, anything is possible. Anything is possible. The thing is, we need to be able to measure the distance between the southern continents to really, in terms of that AE layout versus not AE layout, even versus globe as well, because the globe claims it as a certain thing as well. But yeah, like that's one of the first things that really needs to be done, like independently.
Definitely.
Yeah, because
Yes.
that would be huge. Like, for example, let's just say, just to like put out the possibilities, let's say that the distances are what that AE is, like it really is. That would pretty much just be like game over right there, because the globe would never be able to survive that, especially if the distance was measured pretty accurately and able to be replicated. That would just be it.
Yeah.
In terms of that part of it. But you could say vice versa, if the distances are actually very, much shorter, the way they would be on a globe, or on a planar Earth with Antarctica as a continent, where all three of those continents are all pointing towards it, because that can still be on a planar surface. However, yeah, there was more that would need to be hashed out if that was the case. But I'm just saying,
Definitely.
you can have
I
that on a
agree.
planar. You can have the shorter distances. You can still have the shorter distances on a planar surface, or technically that would start to go more towards the globe on that side. But you can't have the great distances and have a globe, and then you can't have the short distances and have an AE map. So yeah,
Yeah.
or any type of AE layout. I'm saying.
I
AE
also
like.
asked. Yeah. I
I
also
was just
asked
saying
Jared because
AE like, not like the AE, but just planar with the continents all coming out from the center like that. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah, definitely. I also asked Jared because it was a clear day on their flight in. I asked them if they saw the mountain, the active volcano, Mount Erebus, and he said they couldn't see any evidence of the volcano, which is, I guess, maybe too far away. But in theory, at that height, they should have been able to see 500-600 miles away. Possibly. What do you know what the visibility is on, let's say, 30,000 feet? I'll have to memorize that.
Sorry, dude. Could you say that again? If it was targeted, or if I
Yeah,
was gonna respond, yeah, because I know I was in there. I just had to do something for a sec, but
that's okay. Yeah, thank you. I asked Jared because it was a nice clear day on the flight, so I asked them when they returned if they saw the active volcano in Antarctica, and they said they couldn't see it or the
oh
smoke.
right, yeah.
So I was wondering how far, when we're at 30,000 feet, how far is the horizon? Has anyone calculated that? I don't remember.
It's only a few tens of kilometers, 30 or 40
Okay.
kilometers.
Well, it's
Mount
gonna vary.
Erebus was no closer than 1,200 miles from their location. So, and it's not a highly active volcano. It's not spewing stuff up into the sky. It's just yeah, a low level activity coming from Erebus typically.
Yeah, so yeah, just measuring those distances in the south would be really key, and just great to have independently done as well. So, and that's not too far off, although it is a bit of a project to do it. But yeah, that would be very, very
Yeah.
revealing in that way. And then to really get the whole plot of what Antarctica really all is, I wonder even like with enough money, how far you could take their permits. Be interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure money will grant access. especially like Alan Eustace. He's the one that has the record of the high altitude jump, right? Former executive from Google. So when you have money, I'm sure they'll be happy to grant access.
I don't know though, like to what degree, because like I was just thinking, like let's just say you know you had all the funds to do it. Like in a way, that would be like a potentially a kamikaze mission. I mean, I'm not trying to like have a negative outlook on anything, but if you're just going to be like, yeah, we're going to push the limits of getting permits in Antarctica, and we have like billions of dollars to get it, you know, unless because like for example, like could you set up your own camp? You know, like they have Union Glacier. Can you set up your own entire camp with your own runway, your own setup, and you know that kind of thing? And why is it only like there's like what there's like two companies? There's only like two companies, and there was also that research someone had done where they were saying that they're owned by the same families. Like the companies, all the ones that like take you to Antarctica are all owned by the same families. Anyways, it's pretty interesting, but yeah, so that's the thing. Like, and what I mean by a kamikaze mission is that, I mean, if you're making like a thing about it and then pushing it, I mean, you know, even with the funds all there, like the team doing that would have to pretty much just know beforehand, like, well, I mean, yeah, it just, there is a risk involved and it would be kind of intense to, yeah, but it just seems like if you're, you know, if you're trying to push the limits of being able to explore somewhere they don't want you to, then
for sure.
there might be
Absolutely.
other things we can do that would be more effective than going right up against them in that way. But I don't know. It is interesting to think like people do say you can just go to the North Pole. It's like, all right, can we? Let's go.
Yeah, I doubt that. Especially after listening to Trudeau himself, the Prime Minister of Canada, talking about there was a secret base up there, and it blew his mind.
I saw a YouTube short that might have been fake or it might have been real, but basically it seemed pretty real. But it was like these kids like had on motorcycles and they got into like Area 51 and they got like too far into because not only Area 51, there's like Area 50, Area 49. I mean, there's all the areas. Anyways, but they were in there. And these guys, like, it seemed pretty hardcore. Like, it almost did seem like it was the dude's like body cam or whatever. And like, they just had like machine guns drawn, and they're like, "We will shoot! Like, get on the ground!" It was intense. Yeah, they just completely like.
For sure.
They're like, "You guys are not going any further," and they'd let them go. They're like, "Take your bikes and get right out of here! Like, get out of here! Don't ever come back." But they had guns drawn. They were ready to just take you out. And that's just Area 51. That's just one thing.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they have just guns sitting in Antarctica. They have all kinds of radar though, and they could send out any drone thing to intercept anything. So.
Oh yeah. And have you seen? I'm sure you've seen that fishing boat that was encountered by a military vessel. The vessel pulled right up to those guys who were, I think they were out in the south, and it was no joke. He got them out of there quick. That military boat.
So that's an interesting one, right? This is one that I find particularly hypocritical and deceptive. So that boat was in Bass Strait, which is in southern Australia, between Victoria and Tasmania. They were approaching either a military exercise or an out-of-bounds oil rig field where domestic vessels aren't allowed to go. They were nowhere near Antarctica. They were wearing T-shirts, for God's sake. And that video is one of the most fraudulent, dishonest things I've ever seen.
Wait, so it's fraudulent, meaning
people take it as gospel and they spread it.
Wait, so you're saying that's not a military vessel?
It's a military vessel, but it's not anywhere near Antarctica. It's in the Australian territorial waters north of where I live.
Okay, yeah, I'm just stating how military vessels in the ocean are able to intercept stragglers. That's just my point. Wasn't
Absolutely.
about Antarctica
Yeah.
particularly.
The video that spread that you quoted its point is to make people think that you get turned back from Antarctica, where in fact the video is not showing any such thing.
Did you guys know there's insects in Antarctica? According to, I was
Well, wait,
chatting
what
with.
up?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, dude.
It's okay. What's up?
No, man, there's no insects in Antarctica. That is the most deceptive claim I've ever heard.
I know. I was actually chatting. I was in another Discord server, and this guy named Great Tangelo. I'm sure you've seen him. He has the guy with the spider.
Oh yeah, we know
Smart
him.
man. Yeah. So we were looking it up. They said supposedly there's fleas because I was asking, are there ants in Antarctica? Because supposedly there's grass or some vegetation,
Well, that's why they call it Antarctica. Just joking.
right? What kind of ants are there?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, from before, like what I would want to know, I'd want to be able to fly to the different parts of Antarctica independently. To be able to go from, yeah, the different areas and be able to just basically like plot it all out ourselves in that way. And that's what I wonder, like how hard those permits would be. Like, I don't really need to like own property and have some like ice domes there. Maybe that would be interesting though someday, or if you could have that or have your own like, because I mean at that point, like, is it just about having enough money? Because I mean, yeah, if you have a private like resort thing, or if they've already let these other companies, have their little spot. So, I mean, if somebody was really wealthy, you would think that they would just be like, hey, I'll just pay for the spot, but instead of renting it out to people, or instead of selling trips here, we'll just use it for ourselves. But then they don't seem to let that happen. You don't really hear about like celebrities with just decked out like places. It's just this very few like Union Glacier thing. So yeah, like I would want to be able to cross check and be able to see like when you fly from the 90-degree point of Edmondson, can you really like where's McMurdo from there? Like how is McMurdo, Edmondson, and Union Glacier? How are they all actually plotted? And are they all that close to each other? Can you fly to all three of those? Just boom, 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 or because I've heard of like you go from this one to that one to this one, but you don't really hear from going that one to this one. You know what I'm saying? There's some missing links in there of like what seems to be more trackable of which flights actually happen. So
Absolutely. I'm sure there's some secret bases there from the US. They have to be. But what was I going to say?
So that's what I was saying just before about like, would they let, even with the money, would they let you even get permits to even do any of? Because I mean, Witsit was making like he was saying that those ALE people, they're like, oh yeah, if you get permitted, they'll do whatever. If you have, that's what he was saying is like, if you have enough money, he's like, they'll go like take you here, there, they'll whatever. Like all he said, basically they'll like customize whatever you want to do, meaning that it's almost like they have free reign of the land. Well, that sounds pretty like interesting, but is that? I mean, to what extent can you? Yeah, like is that even?
Exactly. How, to what extent? You're right. How far where are their borders or where are their limitations? Because there's definitely military is not going to allow just the tourist exploration on their base. No way.
Yeah, so it's all just still very locked down in terms of what we can really get access to.
Yeah,
in terms of
there
being
are a
able
few.
to link,
I'm sorry.
to what we can link together. However, it seems like even outside of like permitting or what I said before about a kamikaze mission, it just seems like if you go poking the bear, it just it's I don't know. It's just like how to really proceed. It doesn't mean we should like live in fear and not do things, but at the same time, like. There may be a certain tact of a way to go about things. Obviously, just to kind of.
Yeah. Have you heard of the mount? There's a mountain in Antarctica named after the Rothschilds. So these people literally they want to go explore. They want to do some cartography. You know what I mean? Without interference of maybe second class citizens, according to them. You know what I mean? So I know the Rothschilds are able to explore, especially people with big families and backing. Let me see if I can find Mount. I know there was one named after the Rothschilds there in Antarctica. Let's try to post it. I'm sure they want to name all the mountains after them, their family.
Yeah, because like for example, on a planar surface, you could still have a continent of Antarctica with the 3 continents that would all be pointing to that continent and have that laid out in a planar fashion. The thing is, though, you would have like the other side of Antarctica, meaning, because like on a globe, that would all just be wrapped around the bottom of a ball. Whereas on a planar surface, if you have that continent, there's like an other side of Antarctica, which is interesting because Admiral Byrd talked about going like into Antarctica and then kind of going like beyond. Like he said like beyond Little America, which Little America is like a base. But because I mean, on a planar surface, if you have a 24-hour sun like that, that's going literally around, just like it does, like, so in the north, it's like going around the north, you know, like Polaris, and you can just be in the north and you can see it doing that. So if you're in the south, whatever, in terms of that as well, when it's circuiting, even if you have all those continents on a planar surface, they're all meeting into a continent of Antarctica. It's only lighting up like a portion of it, you know, like a 2/3 of it or whatever, whereas like a whole third of it or a whole half of it or whatever is on the other side of Antarctica as it loops around, which would be a greater distance as well on a planar surface. Like it's the whole other half of the whole loop of the sun, which would then mean that like that, at least at that time of year, it would like be warm over there, potentially like tropical, which is kind of what Admiral Byrd described. Is that it's like rich, full of resources.
Absolutely. And then I think it was after that interview, I think the next year they had the Freemason Lodge there built, right? Was it 777? Lodge 777?
I mean,
I
I'm
have
not
it
saying
somewhere.
that's the case, like for sure. I'm just saying that's one idea of like, because on a planar surface there would be like warmth over there that you know that would be very rich of resources, it would seem. And if he went to Antarctica and then like kept going, what would happen? You know, that's the thing. Do you pop up the other side of a ball, or are you in some other? Yeah, that's the thing. Are you experiencing the 24-hour sun, going, you know, just going further basically in terms of that? So
Yeah, that would probably end the debate too, right? If they had the circumnavigation of the south. Or not just circumnavigation, rather take a flight across Antarctica. But yeah, Gio, I sent you a link regarding the Rothschild Islands. So just think of all the other islands that they're naming and mountains that they're naming and exploring, cataloging. If I'm not mistaken, the Rothschilds do have ties to Vanguard and BlackRock. If I'm not mistaken, there's a few families that are in the Vanguard boardroom, Pinnacle, at the Pinnacle. There's the Warburgs, if I'm not mistaken, the Rothschilds, and a few other families. And then they utilize Vanguard, and which owns BlackRock, Blackstone, and together they own majority shares of essentially every company. Google, Facebook, YouTube, Disney. All major shareholders are Vanguard and BlackRock. I think the BlackRock that they're guarding is that black magnetic mountain under Polaris.
the BlackRock.
Yeah. The Black Rock at the North Pole Magnetic Mountain, supposedly, which is representative of our nose in the center of our face. And we've got 2 nostrils. And I remember Jaron, he was reading reports from the north, and he was reading that there was 2 water vortices that changed direction throughout the day. So that might be the true cause of the tides and their fluctuation. The Earth is breathing in and out. And our nose, according to some medical research, they found there's some magnetic structures behind our nose. I've posted it a few times.
Yeah, it would just be part of confirming like what I want to see confirmed is the distances in the south like that, and then in addition, basically, you're then ending up circumnavigating Antarctica, and then if you could also plot like you would know like where McMurdo is exactly, like basically those spots, and just to confirm all of that, and that's what I'm saying. The permitting might get difficult at that point, but I mean,
For sure.
it would be a noble quest to push forward with it, because, like I said, like it really does come down to the funds. But if the funds are all there, just imagine to where it's like, okay, well, you could say, okay, well, there's an issue, we need the funds. But if the funds are all there, now that's not the issue anymore. Now it's like, okay, well, how do we actually do this? And if you're gonna like try to go to the North Pole or the South or any of that stuff, yeah, there's all the permitting with the governments. And the thing is, I know a lot of those, like some of those, they're like $100,000 is how much it costs, and like that's like non-refundable for like when you get into some of the deeper permitting, or like one of them's like 250,000, and it's like non-refundable. So yeah, you have to. But I'm saying if all that's there, and then you, in addition, like let's just say you have unlimited resources in that way, it would still be, like I said, I mean, I don't like to live in fear in any way, and I think that it's important just to move forward with truth and do what's right and all of that as well. However, like I do think like, yeah, like going right at them in that way right now, would probably be, there would be a potential just kind of risk involved, perhaps, just because like if you're pushing their boundaries,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said before, I don't know if that's like the best route to go about it. But at the same time, from the perspective of the funds are there, I guess just the people doing it would have to realize like, okay, yeah, like we're dealing with psychopaths. So like if you're trying to like push getting permitting to actually get to Antarctica or to the North Pole and be able to, and especially when you have all the crew, the equipment, everything you need, all the financial backing, whatever, enough to pay for all the insurances and all the stuff that's needed, all the rescue teams or crews, or if everything's like fully there, you know what I'm saying? And you're at the door, because as far as we know, no one's ever really done that. Like all the billionaires seem like they're kind of in a club to some degree. Millionaires are kind of probably holding on to their money. They're not really about to drop a bunch of it to do something like this. So it's just like no one's ever really, done it as far as we know. Same thing with like building your own rocket company. Like I know there's been some of those amateur ones, but like no one's really stepped up. The only like rocket companies seem to be billionaires. So, and they all seem like they're already in a club and whatever's all going on with Richard Branson and Elon Musk and all these guys.
So true. Elon could definitely do it, but I know he was taken in by the CIA for SpaceX. So I don't know. Like
Bezos is another billionaire space explorer. Why are they all billionaires?
Yeah.
None of them are legit. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
No one else has like stepped up. So like that, it's just in that same category, like stepping up to get the permitting to be like, yeah, we want to go right here to the North Pole. We want to like go to the North Pole in our icebreaker ship, and we want to get right under that North Pole and just take footage of the sky at this time of year. We're going, or like to the south, like we are going to do, and just be able to freely do that and have all the equipment and stuff. Yeah, I'm just saying like that would definitely be.
Absolutely. It should be done. I forgot. I guess Antarctic Treaty is up for, or it's running its course, if I'm not mistaken, pretty soon. Supposedly, there's 90 plus volcanoes there. At least one that we know is active.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, I'm not trying to really be like fear-based in terms of like I was joking about it being a kamikaze mission or stuff like that. I mean, I'm joking, but it just does seem like to go like that route. I mean, even like being involved in that project at all, even I would have some concern, like just spiritually, because yeah, it's like they're obviously, I mean, with what's going on, like with Jarl Andelhoy, like what happened with him, and it just it's a lot to consider. However, if it was all done just like legally and on the up and up, and it, you know, it would be cool to see a team try. Like, I mean, they know technically that there's risks involved. However, if anything happened to them, it would be someone else breaking the law. So I mean, they would have to realize, like, as long as they're doing everything within the legal limits. But yeah, it would be interesting to see, like, if like you know, somebody actually put that effort in to do that, and then what they would actually allow and what could be
Yeah.
learned from that.
PBS and Nat Geo should be able to do it. I mean, just think if that's great content for them. They would have literally millions of people tuning in.
Like, can we just go? They say what, the 60-degree parallel is where stuff starts to get within the Antarctic Treaty System. So can we go to like the 58-degree parallel and just circumnavigate the world, as it were, from 58 south? Because that would be so revealing, dude. Even if someone just got in a boat and went, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know we want to measure everything really tight, you know, but if they were just like, I'm going, and they just did it at like, well, you don't even have to go to 58, just like 55, 56, 57 degrees, you know, like, okay, if 60, we'll stay back from 60, but, you know, can we just do that? And just, I mean, at the end of the day, someone get in a boat, which, I mean, if they have just very general sense of how what their speed is, they're going to know if they're, you know, what their distances are, and they'll be able to at least get a rough estimate, and they'd be able to track the sky, and like, you know, it seems like that should be a pretty easy trip, just to, you know, especially if it was a globe too, it would just be similar to doing it in the north. You would think it'd be done way more.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, Nat Geo should definitely do that. Circumnavigate the Antarctic. But yeah, I agree with you, Geo. I think that would be awesome. People do that. Just get to the 58th parallel, or as close to as possible, and then just maybe even try to relive or retrace Cook's initial journey.
Get a long way.
Yeah.
Antarctica's not a heavily monitored coastline. But essentially be able to go anywhere on the coastline you wanted in Antarctica from anywhere, that they wouldn't even know you were coming, unless you were going straight towards something that had some military significance. But
yeah,
I mean, everyone acts like the ice wall is in Antarctica, but what if that's actually a psyop and the real ice wall is in the North Pole? I mean, if there was an ice wall, they probably would be hiding it. Like, they probably wouldn't make it so obvious like that.
Truth Seeker, do you know why on the flat map the ice wall is on the outside? From a biblical point of view? Because it would have been the leftover water from the flood. And as it dispersed from the center, potentially, it just froze because it's so cold. But I did hear that at the north, there would have, I think, is it the north or the south? There's something called Stargate or Lion's Gate. It's the hidden entrance. Oh, wow. Gregory.
Well, that's where, like, okay, so if it was an ice wall around, let's say if you're gonna, like, the idea of an icy region around, well, see, one thing that would, for example, with what I was saying about the Antarctica locations, so like there is one idea that has been thrown out there over the years, like with an AE type of a map, where you would have like 2 locations that are Antarctica, or maybe even 3. So there's like different ones, and you would go from only certain airports to, you know, this one or that one. Obviously for Union Glacier, it's from South America, for example. I know the one that they do for that like White Desert or whatever, that one they do leave from South Africa, but I think they also go over near Australia, like that side of things. But anyway, so that's kind of it seems like the other side, and it is like different there. But anyways, it's like a whole different setup. But So yeah, so if you're saying like an icy region around, like, would you then think the idea that what they call Antarctica would be broken up into multiple? Are you going off that idea? It would be broken up into multiple areas, or it could be.
I've heard that, yeah, with certain entrances and exits potentially. I think one video called it Stargate or Lion's Gate. But yeah, great questions. I'd love to see the map the CIA has. I would just love to see that.
But like, wouldn't the wall have to be fully connected? Like, if there's a hole in the wall, then you could get to the other side.
Yeah, or the firmament. But yeah.
Right. I mean, there could be multiple walls, I guess. Like, there could be like, I don't know.
No, it's true. Let's see if we accept the flat Earth and the sun is making its round on the other circuit, it would get cold at the North Pole, and I guess that is why North Canada is quite cold generally.
Southern Canada's cold.
Yeah, so
pardon?
Eden, like, I mean, do you think it is a layout like an AE type of thing with an ice wall surrounding? Is that what you think is the case, or are you on the fence in terms of the exact layout, or like in terms of that, or where are you at with that? Since we're kind of on
Yeah,
that?
I'm still with the ice wall supposedly and mountains at the end with the firmament reaching extending from the tops of the mountain. So I'm still holding to that. Yeah. Just because I don't have the evidence showing it's a sphere. A lot of the evidence that has been presented has been forged, includes deception. There's two things that I was hoping for. The moon landing would have been one, and videos from Earth from the moon, and an uncut video. Without those two, I just can't go. And the fact that my senses don't comport to this globe paradigm, I just have to resort back to a stationary level plane.
You forgot the conspiracy. That's what drives you. None of those things. The conspiracy is what's driving you. I'm sure of it.
No.
You're not sure of anything, Daza.
Yeah, I was pretty sure the government was being honest with everybody, but just a little
You've
bit
rejected
of
a lot of evidence along the way. A lot of good evidence, right?
yeah, like the moon landing. Is that good evidence?
That's not evidence of the shape of the Earth. It's secondary evidence of the shape of the Earth. But from an engineering standpoint, the moon landing is very sound.
Okay.
There's
And
a picture of the Earth from the moon, bro. Like, that is the only so-called proof you have.
Yeah, maybe you have some video of the Earth. Daza, can you post the first video of Earth from the moon? No
Probably
rush.
not,
No pressure.
Because I don't see video as important evidence in these things.
Oh yeah, actually seeing it isn't important.
Video is weak evidence of anything.
Maybe nowadays.
So my evidence for the moon is physical launching of the rockets, the engineering of the spacecraft, the data that's been recorded and verified by multiple
What data?
people.
It's all wrong data.
Sorry, you clicked
What data are you talking about? It's all gone. There's no telemetry data available.
No, but there is data about spaceflight, right?
There's what? Videos that you just said.
No. So there is other information available. The data mightn't be on live telemetry anymore, but it's recorded as available. And there is even existing spacecraft, right? You can validate that those things are where they are and doing what they're doing.
No, you can't.
You can. You don't need
You
video.
absolutely can't, because we're here right now. We wouldn't be here if it was verifiable. You got to think, dude.
Why wouldn't we be here if it was verifiable?
We wouldn't be here on this Discord right now. There wouldn't be flat earthers if there was verifiable proof of your globe. Period.
Oh, no.
Yep.
I think that's completely incorrect. Flat earthers don't care about verifiable
You can think whatever
proof.
you want, dude. You're
At
wrong.
the end of the day, Daz,
You're
you
really
can
wrong.
spoof locations all over the place, mate.
You can't.
The lack of faith in those tests and results is primarily due to the lies that have preceded.
Yep.
It's actually laughable that you still don't have any proof. It's really bad. And you just believe it so wholeheartedly, but when we ask you, you're not certain about anything 100%. It's just a joke, dude.
I'm certain about the shape of the Earth. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, you are? Well, none of your
Like
other
Rufy said,
padres are.
he'd bet everything that he has on the shape of the Earth.
So would I, dude.
Yeah, but you have no measured evidence of any kind.
Neither
It's
do
just your gut
you.
feel, right?
When Rufy's done failing at remedying the observation made by the celestial theodolite, I mean,
yeah,
he's
gonna go
contractually
back
obliged to
big
put
time
himself in
before
an
it.
insane asylum. Okay, so I mean, he's already. They'll never
But you
do
know my
it
key
because
evidence
obviously they
here,
won't
right, is
go there.
GPS. And you can say what you like about the spoofing of GPS, but spoofing of GPS is horrendously difficult to do. You can't, but you can individually so you can get survey grade GPS, right? And how can they spoof it just for you, make it work for you and not work for anybody else, right?
Are you serious?
So, like any device anywhere on any platform can use GPS, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, this sounds like what? The military just gave over technology to the enemy at this point?
Well, it's always been there with degraded accuracy. Obama turned off selective availability. It's one of those things that it's there. They will turn it off if they need to. There's no doubt about that. If the US military need to stop GPS working somewhere, they can do that, and they will. At least the civilian bands, anyway. Yeah, there's no doubt
They can
about
turn
that.
it off, but they can't alter it in any fashion.
No, because the minute you alter it, all that happens is you make it inaccurate. You can't spoof false
There's
locations
corrections
for
in
large
it, dude.
areas.
There's corrections in GPS, bro. The
But you know
fact
what
that you
those
guys
corrections
believe
are.
this stuff blindly is crazy to me.
Yeah,
Like,
but
truly.
you're parroting what Alan says, right? Alan doesn't really understand. I
No.
don't believe. So here's what happens with the GPS satellite.
I've read all about it myself. I'm a big boy.
So GPS broadcasts a single message that every user of that.
That was a genetic fallacy and gaslighting all in one. 2 for 1 right there.
So GPS, right, broadcasts a single message that every receiver of that signal sees. Okay, there's no customization or adjustment of that message for anybody. So if the satellite's going towards you or away from you or across your field of view, you get the same message as everybody else. The only thing different is the timing, right? And if the timing of multiple satellite messages isn't coherent, the GPS will not get a fix. You cannot get a precise location, right? And if everybody is getting a precise location, then the satellites must be giving precise information, particularly when you can verify those locations relative to each other, right? So you can get your survey GPS, you can nail it to the ground, you can go 1 kilometre, 2 kilometre, 3 kilometres, or whatever the range of your correction service is, and you can measure the curvature over those distances. And if it was being interfered with, there would be discrepancy between what you measure on the surface of the Earth and what the GPS measures. The evidence is very strong.
It's not. It's weak as fuck. Your evidence sucks. You're just parroting what you read on Wikipedia.
I've done a lot of this, Jeremy.
And you don't understand it.
I've collected signals from GPS and processed them outside of my phone. So I've been able to get locations from GPS without involving the phone's internal software. I do rely on the phone.
And how do
to-
you
Did you see the satellite?
the GPS? How do you check it? Yeah. How do you check it? against the GPS?
breaking
Jeremy,
up,
you're,
Jeremy.
you're
sorry.
roboting.
How do
Yeah,
you know it's precise?
Jeremy, your connection's
You're
not
just
good
saying,
enough.
like you're just saying things. You're just parroting shit. You're just parroting things you've heard.
No, I've done this. I've looked at the maths. I've looked at the software. I've watched and stepped through the software as it processes my data into locations.
Okay, and how do you know it was precise? You said it was precise. How did you check it to know it was precise?
You can compare two locations, right? So I can capture this at this. So I can get two devices, have them say 500 meters apart, two known locations. Let them record GPS for 10 minutes, bring them back home, and compare the data and calculate positions, and I can see what's going on. Information.
Have they ever
Yeah, but
used
and how
that?
did you check this? And how did you check? It's like you're not even answering. You're not even trying to answer the question I'm asking. How did you check to make sure those measurements were precise?
The GPS measurements or the original measurements?
You went
The
out
ones
with the
done on the ground
GPS.
physically, or the ones?
You got your GPS. You got your GPS calculations. It's not even a measurement; it's a calculation. Your GPS thing. But we'll skip that for now. How did you check to see if it was precise or not?
So when you actually go to, as part of the algorithm for finding out your location, a lot of information comes out about how accurate the fix is. And you can tell if the data that you have is not accurate because you get a large variation. Because it's not just a one-off thing, right? You don't get, right, here's the 3 signals from the satellite, let's do a calculation. The system is actually looking at all the variables and errors and trying to minimize them. And when it's got to a point where the errors are at a minimum, you know your fix is accurate to within 2 meters or 3 meters or whatever.
You're not even answering what I'm asking. You're not even answering. How did you check to make sure those the GPS readings were precise? So how did you measure it to know that the GPS was precise?
Against other known locations.
So you go to a location, GPS says, oh, you're at this location. And then you go to another location, GPS says, oh, you're at that location, therefore GPS precise?
If you have 2 known locations and GPS agrees with the locations, and 2 independent GPSs at the same time, right, then you can be highly confident that the GPS location is as accurate as the physical known location on the Earth, or better.
Okay, yes, we know we're at a location and we know we're at another location. The GPS tells you you're at both of those locations. Okay, what measurements where are you getting globe from? And how are you what measurements are you checking against that to make sure it's precise?
Great question. Can you give us a step-by-step?
Step by step of what you would do? So what you would do is
we'd like a 5-part YouTube series actually starting now, series 1, episode.
So first of
1.
all, I'll tell you how you'd measure the curvature, right? So you take a GPS, you start at a known point, and you would follow a level surface. So you'd take it out across the water, or you'd follow some other known level surface. Record all the data, and you come back and you look at the locations and analyze them for shape. And those locations will clearly show that you've traversed across a spherical surface, right? And so that is not in dispute, I don't think. I think you should all agree that the GPS will demonstrate the Earth is curved at that level. And the next thing is to demonstrate whether or not GPS is actually telling you the truth. And that's where things will get more complicated.
Like GPS finds your coordinates located on the Earth. It doesn't say anything about curvature, mate.
No, that's the second stage, Risky. So you probably heard of a thing called the ECF coordinate system, right? Which is a Cartesian coordinate system. And that's every satellite in the GPS constellation has a position at a given time in that coordinate system, XYZ coordinates, right, in 3D. And that is not related to the surface of the Earth at all. It is related to the Earth in that they have a common centre, but it's not related to the surface of the Earth. And when GPS locates you initially, it is in that XYZ coordinate system. Then it works out where you are on the surface of the Earth by going to WGS84 and a few other models of the surface of the Earth to work out where you are relative to the Earth. But initially, it works out where you are relative to the satellites in 3D space.
It doesn't prove. I explicitly have looked this up. GPS has never been shown or used, although apparently it could be done. It's never actually been explicitly used to show curve. So it's just not on the cards from what I understand.
So there's some people that did a survey of the Bolivian salt lakes using GPS, and so they use GPS and a lot of data processing techniques to manage errors and noise. And they measured the Bolivian salt, or the 45 by 45 kilometre section of the salt lakes they measured, and it was level to within, like, the biggest deviation was about 1.1 metres. And they got their precision down to less than 10 centimetres. So that whole 50k by 50k or 45 by 45 area was level for all practical purposes, right? But it was level relative to WGS 84 datum, which means it was a spherical section that they measured. So you can use GPS to do it. Most people are interested in what's going on the surface of the Earth, right? How does it compare to level? That kind of thing. Constant elevation. But you can use it to measure spatially.
Dude, I'm going to try to make this joke, and I'm really just saying it in fun. I'm not trying to call you out in any way, but your tone right now and your seriousness, you remind me of like a James Bond movie right now. Like, you're so serious with it. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, there's just a lot of misinformation around how GPS works and what you can see from it. That's all, and it doesn't need to be, right. If your evidence is good enough, you don't need to falsify other information.
No, I got you. I just came in with a funny joke, but or just trying to, because it was just like the way you were saying it, and then like.
Yeah, no. But now you say,
no one was
I recognise
responding.
that tone in my voice after you've said it. So.
No, it was like, it just was like, it was so serious to where it was like a debriefing, you know. It's like the GPS is it was like just very just reminds me of like in those movies when they're yeah, like. But anyways, I mean, I don't know if someone else wanted to respond to that. That's a whole topic. I don't know if that even was the topic originally. I think we were on some other stuff too, but that is a huge topic. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if someone wanted to respond to it or not. I guess what I'm saying is you're laying out a whole thing for GPS. And like, there's entire arguments that, yeah, exactly. Well, go ahead. Yeah, was Jeremy? I just don't know if I really like wanting to go and do it right now. I'm doing something else at the moment, but.
I wonder if anyone here was present during one of Jaren's live stream where this guy called in. It was an open call-in show. And this one guy, he said his dad came home one day so angry, like slammed the door. And then he always remembered that. So when they went on a driving trip, he figured, all right, this is a perfect opportunity. So he asked his dad, why did you come home angry that one day? And his dad was building satellites for NASA. He said that he went to work one day and he found his satellite in a closet. He knew it was his because of the serial numbers, and he was angry because all that time away from his family and it wasn't deployed. He sounded like he was genuine, the son, telling his experience on Jaren. And I remember Jaren was like, all right, contact me after the show so we can get into it deeper. That was pretty interesting.
Wouldn't expect that to be too unusual, though, that things get shelved. My career's mostly been in IT, but I've seen, many times. The company I work for is large in Australia but small globally. They've shelved, just abandoned $10 million worth of investment on multiple occasions because it either was going to a dead end or they needed to focus on something else, and they'll just burn it basically and park it.
Yeah, that's logical, and I'm sure that maybe that happened in that instance.
Well, there's an entire conversation to be had about the GPS. I kind of am back and forth from my mic right now, so I'm not really able to kind of go back and forth because you did lay out a whole thing. That's why I was saying if anyone else wanted to jump in. Yeah, because there's a lot to that. I mean, in terms of validating like GPS with the actual physical Earth versus the fact that we're always receiving signals with GPS and then not able to actually verify exactly where they're coming from and exactly how the other side of the system works. It's like we're like a third party, in that sense. So it's just like a receiving of that. So there's a lot with all of that. I just don't know if anyone else wanted to go into that whole topic because there's several assumptions, and you were saying certain things that were fitting the WGS 84. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because it's like a global positioning system. Like it positions you on a global, I would say a fictitiously global model of Earth. It's like it positions you on their model. But then that has to relate to reality. So of course, if someone's saying, "Hey, the Earth's not a sphere, but their model is in their GPS," then of course, there's an entire breakdown of that how that has all been translated through.
Yeah, I've got to drop, but for me, two important things with GPS is one is the GPS system does not know where you are, so the information that it broadcasts must be applicable to everybody that receives it. If you want your location to, or if you want to be able to establish your location at all, right? So if those things aren't where they are when they say they are, you will not be able to establish your location in any way, shape, or form. So for me, that's a key piece of evidence to tell where the satellites physically are. There are other telltale signs like the Doppler shift of the frequency and things like that are secondary, but there's a whole bunch of, I think they call them observables around GPS, and they all add up to, and it's extremely compelling.
Yeah, Deza, has any satellite fallen to the surface of Earth? Would it survive the descent, or what do you think?
There's some big chunks of Skylab landed in the middle of Australia when Skylab came to ground in the early 80s, was it? But typically they don't survive, no.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have something good to talk about, or?
Well, it sure is convenient that, it like burns up in the atmosphere as it's falling down.
Right?
Yeah, Jeremy. Do you want to make it? You want to shift to something else?
I don't know. I don't want this guy's just spewing globe bullshit all over us all night. It's not really fun. Are you having fun?
I'll leave you to it then. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Daza. Cheers. Yeah, the globe makes, it's interesting. The globe, it's curving down, so it's like a frown. Whereas flat Earth, it curves up with a smile.
So then back a little bit on what we were talking about before. So if you do think that it's like laid out that way with the ice around, like how is the 24-hour sun happening? What do you think on that then? Is it?
Yeah, great question. So either they did go there and it wasn't staged. I'm still examining. Like, what's his name? Some Russian guy who was at the base. That was in one of the videos from Flatzoid. He was analyzing it. Because he was saying that sun that was in that 24-hour video didn't seem to match the sun that he's experienced, and he had some sort of he presented his evidence, and I only did watch it once because I'm actually really busy during the day, and I'm gonna go back around and take a look. I'll post it in the chat if you guys want to see. So either it was faked, Geo, to answer, or there is a flat Earth explanation, such as the I'll probably have to formulate a proper response, but either it. I just find it odd that it took so long to get the evidence. Like I remember Jaren, he went and looked through webcam footage for I think at least 8-10 years, and there was zero 24-hour video. And when he reached out to the administrator was saying how it was automatically there was an algorithm to cut the dark scenes to save storage. So there's just so many red flags around the 24-hour sun. But if I were to take it at face value and accept it, there has to be a logical explanation, and if not, then it potentially could be a sphere, but I doubt it. But yeah, the feedback I got from Jared when I asked him if he thought the sun was far away or if he felt that it was local, because I was asking how far away do you think the sun was in kilometers or miles, like because the sun would have been directly above somewhere. So I was wondering where exactly in his opinion, and he said he felt like it was really close. He said it felt like it was a local sun.
Yeah, I mean, I think there just is one there. So, because I mean, the sun's arc path already matches that, like the kind of arc and the anti-arc, Arctic and anti-Arctic. But so it's like however it's all laid out and the entire how the whole sky functions in addition to the exact layout of the land. But I mean that can all be discussed. But just in terms of like the sun's path, like even for example, when the sun starts going south of the equator, if you're right at the equator when the sun starts going south, and you're looking like west, is it circling around the way the AE map thing does, or is it going off to the left? Is it arcing the other way? And the thing is, it does arc the other way, just like the stars do.
Yeah. So does that relate to the personal dome idea? I don't know. I like the response from Dean Odell. He had a good response to the final experiment.
Actually, a 24-hour sun would actually make more sense if they went to the North Pole instead of Antarctica, because then it would just be looping around them in a circle. So, like, maybe it's possible that they tricked Witsa and they didn't actually go to Antarctica and they went to the North Pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, except there's no 24-hour sun at that time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also no way they could have gone north, and there wouldn't have even been a 24-hour sun in the north at that time of year. Yeah,
That's true.
Also, the sun goes the other way. Like it
How
goes,
many-
it goes right to left when you're in the south, and when in the north it goes left to right. Clockwise and counterclockwise, just like the stars.
How many official 24-hour videos did they produce, the Globe Defenders? Do you guys know? Was it 3? Like official 24-hour? 3 different sources? Or is there just the one video with
Wait, for which
cameras?
one? Wait, you're
For
saying
the-
with their specific TFE trip thing? How many?
Yeah, how many different people recorded a 24-hour sun?
Yeah, you guys might know quicker than me, but like 4, 5. How many? I know. I mean, Jaron has his. Which has he released that yet? By the way, remember, it was the one that like he lost some percentage because like files got corrupted. So I don't know, like if it's like 90% or 95 or 85%. I don't know what percent that was non-corrupted that's usable. But has he released that? But anyways, there's his, there's Duffy's, there's McKeegan's.
Okay, thank you.
And which other ones? That's what I'm saying. There's at least those 3, but I guess I'm kind of back and forth from my mic. I'm just kind of real quick interjecting, but yeah. But if
Thank you.
people know exactly, I know there's this. Yeah, there's several of them.
I do remember people were requesting the pitch data from the plane. I wonder, has that been analyzed? Anyone?
This image I'm gonna post real quick shows how okay, on that little thing that says A right there on the left, like exhibit A, it shows kind of like the sphere, shows the azimuthal projection on the ground, and then it shows like the 2 polar. So that thing that's vertical, that's like a stereoscopic projection of the spherical coordinates onto like that vertical kind of planar surface. If you took that thing that's vertical there and put that up on the sky, and it would be massive. That is pretty much what we see. In terms of like the 2 rotations of stars, or the 2 rotational like centers, like you have the Polaris one in the north and then the Sigma Octantis or the Southern Crux in the south. So that's like that kind of 2 polar stereoscopic projection is of a sphere. So like that's why like the ancients, they've always referred to it as a celestial sphere, but they never thought they didn't think stars went under their feet. It's a celestial sphere above the planar Earth. It's like a crystal ball in the sky. But it doesn't mean we're on a ball. We're just on the Earth. But it has that geometry, so it's just showing how you can have the spherical geometry but that would be actually just, whatever it's occurring above the planar surface of the Earth. And it could still function like a celestial sphere because of those coordinates, but you're not actually seeing out in outer space on a ball looking out everywhere. You're actually just seeing the celestial sphere and what portion of it that you see from your position. And you're seeing like how that celestial sphere, how those coordinates like appear to you based on how the stars move in the kind of relation to those coordinates. Which is why their globe model works, because they took that, that actual, and then they just turned it into like a hypothetical actual entire sphere of all the stars way out in outer space, and then they put us on a hypothetical sphere Earth, which only sees half the sky. So they add those.
Yeah. Gio, I just thank you for sharing that. That was really interesting when I saw that too the first time. That's a really interesting thing to consider. Gio, I was wondering, have you seen the video of the close sun where people went to the beach and they had one camera on a tripod and then they had another camera just to the side and they were zooming in on the sun and the clouds? I posted that for you. And then there's also another video of a pilot who appears to be flying above the sun. Let me get the title. It's called Sunrise Under the Clouds at FL 280 by Excel Jet. Feel free to check it out. It appears to be evidence of a local
I remember
sun.
that one. That's old school. Yeah, it says 14 years ago when it was posted, but yeah, I do that. I remember that one. Yeah, and ones like that. Yeah, I think that's still over a planar surface. Just like when the sun's setting, even if you're at altitude, it's going to still be setting down where the ground is, or just where the ground is. And if you have clouds really close to you, it can look like it's kind of below them or in them, but it's really just the angle over a planar surface, in my viewpoint, in terms of like, it's just that the clouds are in between. Is that what you mean? Or what is the claim you're making with it? But yeah, I'm familiar with those. Or I've seen
Okay,
that
yeah,
one.
awesome. I think it aligns with the local sun not being 93 million miles away. It was just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Local lighting and all that. Yeah, for sure.
I showed that to some of the mods at Modern Day Debate Discord, and they didn't really have a response for that. They thought he said it was objectively cool, one of the mods there, but they didn't have a response, especially for the other video of the pilot flying above the sun.